Chapter 158. They ran away. One man and one wolf were stunned. They thought that those people would stay and have a good fight with them. After all, there were more than a dozen of them. What was there to be afraid of? But the result was that they ran away without a fight. Were they that scary? Wolf King said proudly, "Brother Wolf is so awesome. I didn't even make a move and they were scared witless." "It's not that you're awesome, it's that you're too shameless." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. He had never seen such a narcissistic guy. Wolf King said disdainfully, "Brother Wolf knows that you're jealous, so I'm not angry at all." "I'm jealous?" Qin Feiyang was really speechless. He was too lazy to talk nonsense and directly sent Wolf King into the castle. Then, he used the smoke-gathering steps and chased after the middle-aged woman and the others. "He's chasing us. So fast. Almost 4 times faster than me." More than a dozen people's faces turned pale. Fear and despair drowned them like a tide. "I can't run anymore." A young man in black collapsed on the ground, his body trembling and at a loss. The others didn't care about him. This team was temporarily formed. Everyone had their own little thoughts. Unity was simply a joke. In the face of a disaster, everyone flew away. The young man in black turned his head with difficulty and looked at Qin Feiyang, who was rushing over. He begged, "This brother, no, this lord, I was also forced, please spare my life." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. "So easy to talk to?" The young man in black was stunned and wild with joy. However, the next moment, Qin Feiyang swept past him. Chang Shui flashed and the head of the young man in black was directly removed. A bull-sized wound and blood spurted several meters high. "He's a devil. He kills people without blinking. Quick, run." The middle-aged woman and the others in front were scared out of their wits. "Do you remember what I said at that time? Soon you will know who you have offended. I want all of you to be in complete despair." Qin Feiyang's ferocious nature erupted. Using the shifting smoke steps, he rapidly chased after them like a shooting star. With a wave of his saber, he chopped off another person's head. "My lord, we were blind, I'll be your slave. I'll serve you tea, I beg you to be magnanimous and let me live. I don't want to die." The dozen or so people begged as they fled. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to him. With the Chang Shui in his hand, he crazily harvested heads one after another. The remaining people were scared out of their wits. 2 of them fled into the forest in a panic. But not long after, screams could be heard. Obviously, they were killed by the ferocious beasts in the forest. Fresh blood dyed the small path red. The smell of blood was pungent. Heads rolled in the mud one after another. Their eyes were wide open, filled with fear and despair before death. "Little bastard, don't go too far." The middle-aged woman roared. Other than Wang Gang, she was the only one who was still alive. "I'm going too far? At that time, I clearly advised you not to provoke me, but you didn't believe me. But now, you can't blame me for being ruthless." Qin Feiyang was covered in blood. He was like a blood man, emitting an incomparable murderous aura. Yes. This was his most terrifying side. He would not let go of anyone who dared to touch him. "I'll fight it out with you." Seeing Qin Feiyang getting closer and closer, the middle-aged woman suddenly turned around and slapped at Qin Feiyang. True qi surged in her palm. This was a kind of martial skill. But it was only a mid-tier martial skill. Qin Feiyang's eyes were full of disdain. He also slapped out with a palm, accompanied by the sound of wind and thunder, and sent the middle-aged woman flying. Bang! Puff! The middle-aged woman crashed to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. In an instant, her face was full of despair. "Who are you?" She looked at Qin Feiyang in horror. Perfect killing martial skill. Perfect auxiliary martial skill. There was also a white wolf beside him. And his whereabouts were strange. He came and went without a trace. How could there be such a perverted person in the world? You want to know so much? Well, I'll tell you. I'm Qin Feiyang that you're all looking for. Qin Feiyang said. What? The middle-aged woman's body trembled violently. Qin Feiyang stepped in front of her. Chang Shui spun, and suddenly blood burst out. A head fell to the ground. There's only one left. He grabbed Chang Shui and chased after Wang Gang without looking back. Behind him, there was a ground full of broken limbs. It was like a Jura hell. On the way, Qin Feiyang encountered many dead beasts. Basically, they were killed in one move, and their wounds were still bleeding. Obviously, they were killed by Wang Gang. This meant that, although Wang Gang's speed was faster than Qin Feiyang, it was not difficult for Qin Feiyang to catch up with him because of the beasts blocking the way. However, occasionally, there would be beasts jumping out and blocking in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang called out Wolf King. With the cooperation of a man and a wolf, coupled with the invincible Chang Shui, they were unimpeded along the way. Ling Yunfei and Feng Ling Er had also woken up and were recuperating in the castle. After chasing for almost an hour, they finally saw Wang Gang on the small path ahead. However, Wang Gang's strength had obviously increased a lot. A 2-star martial grandmaster level beast was actually killed by him with one punch. Even his severed arm had been restored to its original state. Moreover, further away, there was a bonfire. They could vaguely see more than a dozen figures around the bonfire. This is not good. A man and a wolf stopped and looked at Wang Gang and the people around the bonfire. They had a premonition of uneasiness in their hearts. Qin Feiyang took out the map and looked at it carefully. He said in a deep voice, "The bonfire is the first safe point. You go to the castle first and let Feng Ling Er prepare." After keeping the map, Qin Feiyang sent the Wolf King into the castle. Then, he continued to chase after Wang Gang with a torch in his hand. At the same time, Wang Gang also sensed Qin Feiyang behind him. He turned his head to look, and a sneer appeared on his face. Qin Feiyang ran closer and stopped more than 10 meters away. He frowned and said, "You took the best red fire glaze elixir? You also know?" "Yes, you are their companion." "It's not surprising that you know." "Yes, not long ago, I checked their Qingquan bag. In the woman's Qingquan bag, I found an elixir with elixir patterns. Looking carefully, it turned out to be the best red fire glaze elixir. I've heard about the best red fire glaze elixir. I heard that it was made by Jiang Haotian of Yen City. It can help people break through 2 small realms at once. I didn't believe it at first, but after I took it, I really broke through from a 1-star martial ancestor to a 3-star martial ancestor. What surprised me more was that the woman's Qingquan bag really had a panacea elixir. My arm has been fixed. Now it's my turn to hunt you down." Wang Gang laughed and rushed toward Qin Feiyang without any scruples. 4-star martial ancestor. Qin Feiyang was shocked. What he was worried about finally happened. A 4-star martial ancestor was not someone he and Wolf King could compete with. However, he and Wolf King could not, but it did not mean that others could not. Whoosh! Without hesitation, he went to the castle decisively. Wang Gang suddenly flew into a rage and shouted, "Come out if you have the guts. Don't hide like a coward." A dozen people in a safe place heard the roar and stood up one after another. They looked over in surprise. One of the burly men frowned and said, "It seems to be Wang Gang's voice." "It's indeed Wang Gang. Let's go and have a look. After all, they are old friends. We should help if we can." A dozen people immediately took out their weapons, held torches, and quickly ran toward where Wang Gang was. Inside the castle. "I'd like to see who will be the coward in the end." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. He turned his head and looked at Feng Ling. He handed Pale Snow over and said, "You heard what Wang Gang said before, right? Now, it's your turn." Half an hour passed. Her injuries were more or less healed. She heard. She suddenly stood up and grabbed Chang Shui with cold light in her eyes. Qin Feiyang asked, "Do you need the best red fire glaze elixir?" "No need." Feng Ling said coldly. "Okay." Qin Feiyang grabbed her and appeared on the path. "Die." Seeing the two of them appear, Wang Gang immediately shouted and rushed toward them with murderous intent. "You don't have the ability." Barbarian Elephant Fist. Feng Ling's killing intent surged. Her seemingly delicate body went up to meet the attack without dodging. She clenched her jade-like hand and punched out. "Bitch, see how I'll play you to death later." Quicksand Palm. Wang Gang laughed lewdly as he waved his palm, sweeping up the rain that filled the sky as he slapped towards Feng Ling. The fist and the palm collided. The two of them retreated at the same time, with a trace of blood at the corner of their mouths. How is it possible? Wang Gang's face changed. Wasn't this bitch a 2-star martial grandmaster? How could her strength be on par with his? Right. It must be because the barbarian elephant fist was a perfect martial skill. His quicksand palm was only a superior martial skill, which made up for the gap in cultivation. If it wasn't for the fact that I was seriously injured from fighting with the fierce beasts. If it wasn't for you sneak attacking me. Do you think you can knock me out with your mediocre skills? You think you can steal my Chinkuan bag? Bastard, you actually dared to take the supreme grade red fire-colored glass pill. Today, I'll dig out your eyeballs, chop off your hands, and feed the beasts. Feng Ling was furious. She grabbed Chang Shui with her left hand and punched with her right hand. 9 afterimages of her palms carried a terrifying pressure and rushed toward Wang Gang. The Martial Imperial Hall's exclusive perfect martial skill, Illusion Palm. You're a core disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall. Wang Gang's face turned pale. Because only core disciples were qualified to practice the perfect martial skill, Illusion Palm. The rest of the disciples could only practice the superior martial skill, Illusion Palm. In his heart, he had the intention to retreat. He punched with his palm and the palm wind was bitingly cold, but what he hit was only an afterimage. Feng Ling took the opportunity to slap him in the chest. With a crisp crack, the bones in Wang Gang's chest broke on the spot. Bang! At the same time, his body flew out horizontally and smashed into the ground a few meters away, creating a deep pit. Feng Ling chased after him, her whole body was cold. Puff! Wang Gang spat out a mouthful of blood. Enduring the pain, he hurriedly climbed out of the deep pit and turned around to escape. But at this time, Feng Ling had already caught up, bent down and waved Chang Shui, instantly cutting the tendons of his feet. Bang! At this moment, Wang Gang fell to the ground like a dog eating shit and stuffed his mouth with mud. At the same time, more than a dozen people in the safe area also rushed over. Chapter 159. Feng Ling raised her head and raised her eyebrows, before she said with a cold smile, "What is it? Trying to be a busybody?" Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed slightly, and he also walked to Feng Ling's side, ready to go. The bulky man glanced at the two, before he glanced at Wang Gang and asked, "Brother Wang, what's going on here?" Wang Gang placed his hands on the ground and raised his head toward the group of people, before he begged, "Brother Meng, please help me kill these two little bastards. I'll definitely repay your kindness." "How dare you speak so rudely?" Feng Ling became enraged and stomped her foot on Wang Gang's head. Wang Gang's entire face sank into the mud, causing him to have difficulty breathing. He struggled frantically and cried for help. Seeing this, the group of people immediately glared at each other. The bulky man yelled, let go of Brother Wang at once, or else none of you will live. Feng Ling Er let out a disdainful laugh and said in a cold tone, "Come at me if you're not afraid of death." Stubborn. The bulky man became enraged and threw a punch in Feng Ling Er's direction. Humph. Feng Ling Er harumphed and waved her hand, causing 9 blurry figures to rush toward the bulky man like a storm. Illusionary palm. The bulky man's expression changed greatly, as he immediately backed off. The rest of the people were terrified too. This woman was a core disciple of the Martial Emperor Palace. Feng Ling Er said in a disdainful tone, "Aren't you being cocky? Why are you so scared now?" Wang Gang exerted force and raised his head, before he yelled, "Brother Meng, don't be afraid of them. Let's kill them here. Even the Martial Emperor Palace won't be able to find out who did it. You're really courting death." Feng Ling Er's eyes flickered coldly, as if she had transformed into a female Azura. She waved her hand at lightning speed and dislocated Wang Gang's right hand. Wang Gang let out a cry of pain and yelled, "Brother Meng, they have top-tier crimson fire-colored glass pills. You're courting death." Feng Ling Er waved the Chang Shui again, disabling Wang Gang's left hand. Blood spurted out from the wound like a fountain. Top-grade scarlet-colored glass pellet. The burly man and the others trembled and greed filled their eyes. At this moment, Qin Feiyang spread out his hands and said indifferently, "Let's see what this is before we make a move." More than 10 people looked at his palm. But there was nothing. Just when they thought that Qin Feiyang was bluffing, a transparent crystal appeared out of thin air. What? Image crystal. I would never be able to afford an image crystal stone in my entire life, but he has one. This means that his status in the Martial Emperor Hall is definitely not low. Their faces turned pale. If they dared to make a move, the other party would be able to inform the Martial Emperor Hall of what was happening here with a single thought. This time, he had really hit the wall. There are some things that you are not qualified to touch. Be honest and do your work. This is the way to survive. Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal stone, his expression as calm as ever. Master is right. We will know our place. Please forgive us for offending you just now. More than 10 people immediately nodded and bowed, their faces full of flattery. They also hated Wang Gang in their hearts. How could they offend these 2 people? They actually wanted to drag them down with them. What evil intentions! The burly man took a step forward and cupped his hands. "Masters, this Wang Gang is despicable and shameless. Killing him will only dirty your hands. Why don't you let me do it for you?" Wang Gang said angrily, "Meng Ming, what do you mean by this?" The burly man sneered, "What do I mean? With my understanding of you, I can imagine that you must have taken the initiative to provoke these 2 masters. People like you should be killed. Meng Ming, I curse you to die a horrible death." Wang Gang roared in exasperation. "The person who is going to die today is you." Feng Ling Er kicked Wang Gang's head. Wang Gang was kicked out, howling miserably. His head felt like it was about to split open, and he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. If it wasn't for Feng Ling Er showing mercy, his head would have already split open. "I deserve to die. I have eyes but fail to recognize Mount Tai. I will kowtow to you, please give me a way out." He endured the pain and kept begging. "Scum like you deserve to die. Living is a waste of air." Feng Ling Er walked up and Chang Shui descended like lightning, digging out Wang Gang's eyeballs. Immediately. Wang Gang let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered, rolling in the mud. His entire body was covered in blood, looking extremely terrifying. Qin Feiyang watched with trepidation. If a woman was angered, she was much more terrifying than a tiger. In the future, try not to provoke women if you have nothing to do. The burly man and the others also broke out in cold sweat. It was the first time they had seen such a ferocious woman. Feng Ling Er raised her head and glanced at them, instinctively taking a few steps back. They were afraid that the next target would be them. Fong Ling air snorted from her nose, her face full of disdain. She walked in front of Wang Gang, took back the Qingquan bag, grabbed Wang Gang's clothes, and threw him into the nearby forest. He lost his eyes, and his hamstrings were broken. His hands were also gone. His fate was destined to be tragic. Not long after, he was cut into pieces by a few fierce beasts that rushed over after hearing the news. He died in endless despair, and in the end, not even his bones were left. Those fierce beasts wanted to attack Qin Feiyang and the others again. But when they saw so many of them, they tactfully left. The burly man smiled and said, "Two lords, please follow us to a safe place." As he spoke, he waved to the others. Those people immediately retreated to the side and made way. Fong Ling air nodded and looked down at the Changshui. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. She turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked hesitantly, "This? You see, we are so familiar with each other. This dagger, can you lend it to me to play with for a few days? In your dreams." Qin Feiyang snatched the Changshui, wiped the blood off, and put it into the Qingquan bag. Fong Ling air could only watch helplessly. How stingy. She snorted coldly and walked toward the safety point without looking back. This has nothing to do with being stingy. Changshui is the only thing my mother left for me. I can't let anyone take it. Qin Feiyang muttered and followed her silently. "Let's go." The burly man waved his hand, and more than a dozen people quickly followed. After dozens of breaths, the group arrived at the safe place. The so-called safe place was actually a piece of flat land about a dozen meters wide. There was a canopy on it, and there was a bonfire in the middle, which gave people some warmth. Although it was simple, at least it could shelter them from the rain. Above the bonfire, there was a piece of barbecued meat, but the surface was burnt, and there was a pungent smell of burnt meat. Fong Ling air frowned and shouted, "It smells too bad. Take it away." "Yes, yes, yes." The burly man nodded repeatedly, grabbed the barbecued meat, and threw it directly into the forest next to him. Then, he said, "My lords, why don't we go and get you some fresh meat? Just don't disturb me. You can do the rest," Qin Feiyang said lightly. Then, he sat aside, took a supreme-grade healing pill, and began to recuperate. "What about you?" The burly man looked at Fong Ling air again. Fong Ling air glanced at Qin Feiyang. The more she looked, the more unhappy she was. "Humph." She snorted and sat aside. Then, she said to the group of people, "Don't say I didn't warn you. If you disturb my meditation, I'll make sure you have to bear the consequences." Then, she closed her eyes. The group of people felt bitter in their hearts. These two lords were really hard to please. "Wang Ku, Li Kuei, come with me to hunt." The tall and sturdy man called for two men, who took a torch and walked along the path. After they were far away from the safe place, the burly man turned to the two of them and whispered, "Do you want supreme-grade crimson fire-colored glass pills? Brother Meng, what are you going to do?" The two of them were surprised. "What am I going to do?" "Of course, I'm going to find a chance to kill those two." The burly man's eyes flashed with madness. "Brother Meng, are you crazy? They are the core disciples of the Martial Imperial Hall, and they have the image crystal. If we're not careful, we'll be doomed." Wang Ku and Li Kuei whispered. "What are you afraid of? Aren't they meditating now? When they let down their guard at midnight, we'll sneak attack them. At that time, they won't have a chance to send a message to the Martial Imperial Hall. As long as we can get the supreme-grade crimson fire-colored glass pill, not only can I become a 6-star martial ancestor, but you can also become a 5-star martial ancestor. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You have to think carefully." The burly man instigated. "What if they only have one supreme-grade crimson fire-colored glass pill? How are we going to split it?" Wang Ku frowned. "That's easy. We'll take it to the Precious Treasure Pavilion and auction it. From what I know, the supreme-grade crimson fire-colored glass pill is sold for more than 4 million gold coins in Yen City. At that time, each of us will get more than 1 million gold coins. The burly man said with a smile, but there was a trace of coldness in his eyes. The two of them trembled violently. More than 1 million gold coins, they had never seen so many gold coins in their lives. The burly man urged, hurry up and make a decision. If you don't do it, I'll find someone else. We'll do it. The two of them said hurriedly. The burly man smiled and said, I knew you would agree. Wait for my signal and act according to the situation. The two of them nodded. Then, the three of them killed a ferocious beast casually and returned to the safe place. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes a little and watched the three of them. They knew it was dangerous outside, but they still took the two of them to hunt. Wasn't it too abnormal? But after observing for a while, he didn't see anything strange about the three of them. Am I thinking too much? Qin Feiyang murmured and was about to close his eyes. However, at this time, the burly man turned his head and glanced at him and Feng Ling'er. Seeing that both of them had closed their eyes, a cold smile appeared on his face. But it disappeared immediately. But he didn't expect that this abnormality was clearly caught by Qin Feiyang. He also didn't expect that Qin Feiyang was a very cautious person. There's really something wrong. Qin Feiyang thought to himself. After pondering for a moment, he opened his eyes, got up and walked to Feng Ling'er. Under the puzzled gaze of the burly man and others, he grabbed Feng Ling'er and suddenly disappeared without a trace. Chapter 160. Qin Feiyang, what are you doing? Feng Ling'er was also a little confused by Qin Feiyang's sudden action. Shoo! Qin Feiyang made a shushing gesture. Outside. The burly man and the others looked around in surprise. Where were they? How could they disappear into thin air? Could it be that they could teleport? Li Kuei said, Brother Meng, do you know where they went? The burly man shook his head. Wang Ku frowned and said, did he notice our motive? Impossible. After we came back, we didn't show any flaws. The burly man shook his head decisively, his expression uncertain. Meng, what motive? What are you talking about? The others looked at the three of them in confusion. Nothing. Meng said irritably, sitting next to the bonfire. Under the light of the fire, his face was full of hostility. In the castle. What motive? Feng Ling'er, Ling Yunfei, and Wolf King also looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. How would I know? Anyway, it can't be anything good. Qin Feiyang sneered. He didn't dare to say about the others. But Meng, Wang Ku, and Li Kuei were definitely suspicious. Feng Ling'er said, do you want me to go out and kill them? No need. There are still 2 danger points before we reach the Desert of Death. We might as well make use of them. Besides, their strength is not bad. With your current ability, it won't be easy to kill them all. As soon as Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he found that Feng Ling'er's expression was a little strange. He said helplessly, don't misunderstand. It's not that I don't have confidence in you. I just don't want you to get hurt. Oh, you still care about me? Feng Ling'er didn't dare to be surprised. Forget it. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He walked to the iron box and continued to copy the Huan formula. Feng Ling'er asked, Wolf Cub, what did Qin Feiyang write? What's the point of doing that? Nonsense, would he do something meaningless? Wolf King glared at her and continued to nap on the ground. Feng Ling'er pinched its ear and asked curiously, then tell me, what's the point? Wolf King said angrily, with my bad temper, do you believe that I won't bite you? Then bite me. Feng Ling'er stared at it unkindly. A good wolf doesn't fight with a woman. Wolf King's eyes were full of disdain as he said indifferently, let me put it this way. If he didn't write that thing, his cultivation level would have long surpassed yours. Feng Ling Air was dumbfounded. In front of him, your talent is only a little better than trash. Wolf King said contemptuously. How dare you compare me to trash? Wolf Cub, you really need to be taught a lesson. Feng Ling Air scowled and pinched hard with her jade-like hand. One of Wolf King's ears was suddenly deformed and he grimaced in pain. Brother Wolf needs to be taught a lesson. What do you want? Bite my balls if you have the guts. Wolf King roared. Shameless, dirty, dirty. Feng Ling Air was so angry that her teeth itched. Seeing the girl and the wolf fighting fiercely, Ling Yunfei shook his head helplessly. However, he firmly believed in Wolf King's words. Qin Feiyang's martial arts talent was indeed much better than Feng Ling Air's. It could even be said that in the entire county of Yan, no one could be his match. That night, Feng Ling Air made a breakthrough. She was thick-skinned and asked Qin Feiyang for a supreme-grade red fire glaze elixir. She became a 5-star martial grandmaster. And Qin Feiyang only had 6 supreme-grade red fire glaze elixirs left. The next morning, not only did the rain not stop, but it also became heavier. Meng Ming and the others were ready to go. Qin Feiyang also withdrew his arm and closed the iron book. He looked at Feng Ling Air and said, just pretend that you don't know anything. Feng Ling Air, don't expose your current strength too early. I know what to do. Feng Ling Air rolled her eyes as if she was blaming him for being a busybody. Ling Yunfei shrugged and said with a smile, we don't know anything. Qin Feiyang smiled and did not talk nonsense with Feng Ling Air. He led the two to the safe place. They appeared out of thin air again. Meng Ming and the others were about to set off. When they saw the three of them, their eyes almost popped out. Ghosts were nothing more than this. Cough. Wang Ku coughed and pulled Meng Ming's sleeve. Meng Ming suddenly came back to his senses. He quickly walked to the three of them and bowed. He looked at Ling Yunfei in confusion and asked, Lords, who is this? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, he is also a core disciple of the Martial Imperial Palace. Greetings, Lord. The group immediately bowed. Ling Yunfei nodded faintly. Meng Ming smiled flatteringly and said, Lords, you see that danger is everywhere. Why don't we travel together so that we can take care of each other? Okay. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and nodded in agreement. Meng Ming was overjoyed and asked, when shall we set off? Qin Feiyang looked at the sky and saw layers of dark clouds. He did not know when the rain would stop, so he might as well set off now. Therefore, the group of people rushed through the rain. There were 5 people clearing the way in front, 5 at the back, and 3 at the left and right. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 walking in the middle had nothing to do. Meng Ming killed a beast with a slash. He looked back at Qin Feiyang and asked with a smile, Lord, where did you go last night? We were worried to death when we saw you suddenly disappear. Thank you for your concern. Qin Feiyang smiled and said. He avoided Meng Ming's question. Meng Ming turned his head and frowned. He asked without looking back, Lords, is this your first time in the Desert of Death? Qin Feiyang nodded. Then it's easy. Meng Ming sneered inwardly and shouted, all of you, stay alert. Let's try to reach the second safe point before it gets dark. Okay. Wang Ku and the others shouted. The path during the day was much safer. It took a long time to encounter a beast blocking the way. The strength of the people present was not bad, so they could easily deal with it. When it was almost evening, Meng Ming, who was walking in front, suddenly raised his hand and shouted, everyone, stop. What's wrong? Someone asked. Nothing, I'm just thirsty and want to drink some water. Meng Ming took out a water bag and drank a mouthful. He turned to look at the others and smiled, does anyone want to drink? However, as he spoke, he secretly winked at Wang Ku and Li Kuei. The two of them nodded without leaving a trace. Brother Meng, thank you. It's raining. We've drunk enough rain. How can we be thirsty? Let's continue our journey. The others laughed. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. That's right. We've drunk enough rain. How can Meng Ming be thirsty? Something's wrong. He raised his head and looked at the path ahead. There was still a dense jungle on both sides of the path. But it was surprisingly quiet. Along the way, although there were few ferocious beasts, the roar of beasts and the sound of insects never stopped in the jungle. But here, not to mention the roar of beasts, there was not even the sound of insects. It could even be described as dead silence. He carefully observed the terrain around him and suddenly realized that this was the second danger point. Since it was a dangerous point, why didn't Meng Ming say it? Meng Ming had already put away the water bag and smiled. Everyone, there's still an hour's journey to the safe point. We should be able to reach it before dark. Let's go. The group continued to set off. However, Meng Ming, Wang Ku, and Li Kuei had unknowingly retreated to the middle of the crowd. The others also noticed it, but they didn't suspect anything. But Qin Feiyang knew in his heart. He pulled Ling Yunfei's sleeve. Ling Yunfei understood and used the same method to remind Feng Ling Air next to him. The dangerous point was close at hand. Meng Ming and the other two subconsciously put their hands on the Qinkuan bag at their waist. Finally, the group entered the dangerous point. Whoosh! Immediately, streaks of blood-red light shot out from the bushes, covering a large area. At first glance, it looked like a sea of blood, incomparably terrifying. What the hell is that? Everyone turned pale with fright. But even Qin Feiyang, who had long been prepared, couldn't help but turn pale when he saw the blood-red flowing light clearly. This is blood leech. He roared loudly. Blood leech. Hearing this name, everyone's face instantly turned pale. There was no desire to fight at all, only despair and helplessness. It was also at this moment Meng Ming and the other two revealed their killing intent. They took out a dagger from their Qinkuan bag and directly pounced on Qin Feiyang and the other two. Fox's tail has finally come out. Qin Feiyang sneered. The big hand hidden in the sleeve stretched out like lightning. Chang Shui was invincible. The three daggers were broken on the spot. At the same time, Feng Ling Air threw out 3 palms in a row. True Qi rolled as if it could topple mountains and overturn seas. Puff! Meng Ming and the other two spat out a mouthful of blood. Their chests instantly caved in. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang and the other two reached out with their big hands. Each of them grabbed one person and used them as a meat shield. They rushed forward violently. The swarm of blood leech all gathered on Meng Ming and the other two and crazily drilled into their bodies. The others were also drowned by the blood leech. Screams could be heard incessantly. Qin Feiyang and the other two rushed out without looking back. Then, they threw Meng Ming and the other two aside and ran more than 10 meters away. Only then did they turn around and look at Meng Ming and the others. Those blood leech were only the size of a thumb. They were blood-red and extremely disgusting. Even with Feng Ling Air's fearless personality, when she saw those blood leech, her beautiful face turned pale. My 3 lords, please save us. Ah, it hurts. They drilled into my body and are sucking my blood. Meng Ming and the other two cried out in pain as they rolled on the ground. Their bodies were covered with blood leech. They could not be swatted away or shaken off. Qin Feiyang sneered. You schemed to kill us and now you want us to save you. Do you think we are stupid? What? They actually noticed it. Meng Ming's expression changed abruptly. He hurriedly said, My lord, what are you saying? We never had such thoughts. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, Since you didn't have such thoughts, why didn't you tell us that this is the second danger point? How did you know? Isn't this your first time here? Meng Ming exclaimed in disbelief. Chapter 161. Although it's our first time going to the Death Desert, as disciples of the Martial Imperial Hall, it's not difficult for us to know the situation along the way. Qin Feiyang sneered. Hearing this, Meng Ming was immediately filled with regret. Although there were more than 10 people in the group, only he, Wang Ku, and Li Kuei had been to the Death Desert. Therefore, he asked the two of them to cooperate. He originally thought that Qin Feiyang and the other two knew nothing about the situation along the way. He planned to make a big fuss at the dangerous point and take the opportunity to kill the three of them. However, he did not expect that not only did the other party know everything, but he also knew their motive. Lord, I was wrong. I was forced by Meng Ming. Please be merciful and save me. Wang Ku cried. Yes, it's all Meng Ming's fault. Lords, please forgive us and save our lives. Li Kuei hurriedly said. You reap what you sow, slowly enjoy the process of death. When you are reincarnated in your next life, remember to keep your eyes open and see who you can offend and who you can't. Qin Feiyang sneered and left quickly with Ling Yunfei and Li Kuei. Feng Ling looked at Qin Feiyang's back as she hurried along. Her eyes were filled with an inexplicable brilliance. Meticulous like dust. Observant to the smallest detail. Was this kind of temperament innate? Or was it acquired? If it was the former, it could only mean that the young man in front of her was a born monster. But if it was the latter, how did he survive all these years? How many setbacks and hardships did he go through? She wanted to know more about this man now. She had never had such an impulse before. Swoosh. However, only 100 breaths had passed. A white figure suddenly descended from the sky and blocked their path. Qin Feiyang and the other two were shocked and immediately attacked. However, when they saw the person's face, they quickly turned around and fled. This was because the person who had arrived was Elder Wan. Stop! Elder Wan shouted with a ghastly expression. The three of them stiffened and looked at each other helplessly. When they turned around and saw the pair of eyes filled with anger, they immediately lowered their heads and remained silent like children who had done something wrong. What happened? Why didn't Fatso send me a message? Qin Feiyang was very upset. Elder Wan glanced at the three of them. His face was dark, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. It was obvious that he was on the verge of exploding with rage. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei swallowed their saliva and pulled Feng Ling sleeves at the same time. Do what? Feng Ling glared at the two of them. Of course, she understood what Qin Feiyang meant. But now that Elder Wan was in a fit of anger, she did not want to get on his bad side. Very good. Very good. Elder Wan looked at the three of them and nodded. He did not say much, but Qin Feiyang and the other two could clearly feel that Elder Wan was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei pulled Feng Ling sleeves again. Ling Yunfei whispered, Senior Sister Ling, go quickly, or we'll all be finished. Why don't you go? Feng Ling said angrily. The two of them felt bitter. They looked up at Elder Wan and laughed awkwardly. What are you laughing at? Is it very funny? Elder Wan roared. He was so angry that he couldn't vent his anger. The two of them immediately lowered their heads and stretched out their hands at the same time to push Feng Ling out. You two bastards. Feng Ling was furious and glared at the two of them. But now that things had come to this, she could only bite the bullet. She raised her head and walked to Elder Wan's side. She lowered her head and said, Grandpa Wan, we were wrong. You know you were wrong? How rare. Then tell me, where did you go wrong? Elder Wan was so angry that he laughed. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. I shouldn't have gone to the desert of death without permission. It's all my fault. I was too willful. I shouldn't have listened to Jiang Haotian and Ling Yunfei's slanderous words. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei were initially grateful to Feng Ling for taking the blame alone. But when they heard the fifth sentence, they were dumbfounded. Did they think too much? This woman was simply shirking the responsibility. Grandpa Wan, I shouldn't have been instigated by them. I should have stopped them from the beginning and reported them. Grandpa Wan, I'm sorry for your nurturing, I feel guilty. Fong Ling Er looked very wronged. She was about to cry. Pretend. Keep pretending. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei looked at her with disdain. It would be a pity if she didn't become an actress. Fong Ling Er secretly glanced at the two of them. She looked a little smug, as if saying, "Who told you to push me? This is the consequence of offending me." She looked at Elder Wan pitifully and said, "Grandpa Wan, although I was instigated by them, I don't deny my fault. Please punish me. You shouldn't be so shameless." Qin Feiyang sighed. He couldn't count on this woman. If he continued to let her speak, it would only add fuel to the fire. He looked at Elder Wan and consciously admitted his mistake. "Elder, it's our fault for sneaking out of the Martial Imperial Hall, but I was also forced. It was Ling Yunfei who instigated me." "What?" Ling Yunfei stared at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Fong Ling Er was also dumbfounded. Elder Wan's face was twitching uncontrollably. After Ling Yunfei came back to his senses, he hurriedly shouted, "Elder Wan, I don't know anything. They asked me to follow you." "Ah." Qin Feiyang and Fong Ling Er were stunned. This was the rhythm of refusing to admit defeat no matter what. Elder Wan glanced at the three of them. He was angry and amused. "Humph, don't think that this matter will be over just because you don't admit it. I'm not afraid to tell you that before I left, I asked Elder Ji to imitate the Danwang Hall and make a pig cage. I'm afraid it's already ready. If you don't tell the truth, you'll live in a pig cage for a while when you go back. I believe that you'll be very satisfied." Elder Wan said expressionlessly. "Pig cage." Fong Ling Er's face turned pale. Is there a need to be so cruel? Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. "Humph, to deal with disobedient people like you, I have to use extreme means." Elder Wan snorted. Qin Feiyang's face stiffened. He said helplessly, "Elder Wan, in fact, this is what happened. Some time ago, I heard that the Death Desert is a very suitable place for training, so I encouraged Ling Yunfei and Fong Ling Er to go and have a look. Someone had to bear this responsibility. Since Fong Ling Er and Ling Yunfei were unwilling, he would bear it. Is that really the case?" Elder Wan frowned. Qin Feiyang nodded. During this period, Ling Yunfei was struggling. In the end, he made up his mind. He couldn't let Qin Feiyang take the blame. He shook his head and said, "No, it's all my fault. I wanted to find out the cause of my father's death, so I asked Jiang Haotian and senior sister Ling to help. Elder, if you want to punish someone, punish me alone. I'm willing to go to the pig cage." Fong Ling stared blankly at Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang. She gritted her teeth and said, "Grandpa Wan, they originally planned to wait until they became stronger before coming. It was I who couldn't wait and forced them to come now. You can punish me, but can you not go to the pig cage? Have you found your conscience?" Qin Feiyang and Elder Wan were a little stunned. "The three of you are really reckless. With your little strength, let alone going to the Death Desert, it's your luck to be able to come here. I say, can you guys save us some trouble? Do you know how worried Elder Ji and I were when we found out that you sneaked out of the Martial Imperial Hall? Do you want to worry us old guys to death?" Elder Wan glared at the three of them, his heart filled with hatred and love. "We're sorry." The three lowered their heads with an apologetic look. Elder Wan continued, "Especially you, Ling Yunfei. When I asked about your father's situation, you acted dumb. Am I that untrustworthy?" Ling Yunfei wanted to say something, but he did not know what to say. "Actually, when I found out that you guys sneaked out, I already guessed that it might be related to your father. I won't deny that I did ask about your father's situation because I wanted to know the location of that place, but I didn't mean any harm. I'm just trying to find out what kind of treasure is in that place, which caused the death of a genius of the martial Emperor Hall. Elder Wan let out a sigh. So you've already guessed it. Qin Feiyang's heart shuddered. Luckily, he did not continue to hide it. Otherwise, it would only make things worse. I'm sorry. Ling Yunfei bowed and said. He initially thought that Elder Wan had some ulterior motives, but in the end, it was just a misunderstanding. Elder Wan waved his hand and said, "That's enough, I'll let it go. Since I have nothing else to do during this period, I'll bring you guys to the Desert of Death." The three were overjoyed. This old man was a real battle dominator. It would save them a lot of trouble if he were to tag along. Elder Wan shook his head and let out a smile, before he waved his hand and unleashed his battle chi, bringing the three into the sky and sprinting toward the Desert of Death. That's incredible speed. Qin Feiyang mumbled and asked in a confused tone, "Elder, how did you know we snuck out? And how did you find this place?" Feng Ling Er and Qin Feiyang glanced at him in confusion too. "Yesterday, I went to look for Ling Er, but there was no one in the cultivation room. I went to look for Ling Yunfei, but there was no one there either. I thought it was strange, so I went to look for you again. Fatso and Lu Hong both told me that you guys were cultivating in that ancient castle. I almost believed it. Luckily, Elder Chu told me that Ling had left the martial imperial palace before." Elder Wan said. After knowing this, he went to look for Fatso and Lu Hong to settle the score. However, the two of them were very stubborn and refused to say anything even if they were beaten to death. In a fit of anger, he confiscated their image crystals and ran to the black-armored guards guarding the city gate to ask about it. The guards told him that they had indeed seen Feng Ling Er and two disciples of the martial imperial palace leaving Yen City and heading toward Xingyue City. He then chased them to Xingyue City and asked the guards there. He found out that the three of them were heading toward the Desert of Death. How could this be? He hurried over in a hurry. As expected, he found Qin Feiyang and the other two on the way. In other words, their whereabouts would be exposed, not because of Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei, but because of Feng Ling Er. Because Feng Ling Er was too famous and was wearing a mask, she was too conspicuous. It was very easy to find out. Chapter 162. The speed of the War Emperor was beyond imagination. A few hundred breaths later, a vast and boundless desert entered the sight of Qin Feiyang and the other two. Although it had rained for 2 consecutive days, the desert was still very dry and the air was a little stuffy. And in the periphery of the desert, there were figures everywhere. Some were exploring. Some were fighting with berserk beasts. Qin Feiyang felt a little strange. What kind of treasure could there be in the endless dry desert? Was it worth the people of Xingyue City risking their lives to come here? Feng Ling Er whispered, "There are many minerals under the Death Desert, such as gold, silver, and some iron ores used for refining weapons. If you are lucky, you can even find a few rare herbs." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Although the desert was dry, there were indeed herbs. Because some rare herbs were suitable for this environment. There were even some herbs that could only survive in the desert. If it were green mountains and clear water, they would wither instead. After entering the desert, Elder Wan did not stop at all. He led Qin Feiyang and the other two and flew into the depths of the desert. Because the speed was too fast, the people below did not notice them. Even if they did, they would only think that it was a meteor that cut through the sky. Boom! Dozens of miles deep. Accompanied by an earth-shaking loud noise, a fishtail that was dozens of feet long rushed out from the sand, raising yellow sand all over the sky. Feng Ling Er said, "That's the tail of the sand whale." Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. He had heard of this kind of berserk beast. Its body was as big as a mountain and it lived under the desert. And like a fish swimming in the water, it could come and go freely. It was also one of the berserk beasts that humans did not want to encounter when walking in the desert. Once encountered, it was definitely a 9 out of 10 chance of survival. Next, Qin Feiyang saw many ferocious berserk beasts again. Without exception, each of them was very huge and had a monstrous aura. Seeing the horror of the Death Desert, the three could not help but secretly rejoice. Fortunately, Elder Wan was here. Otherwise, with their little strength, they would not be enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of these berserk beasts. The sky gradually darkened. The sky and earth fell into the deepest darkness. They could no longer see the desert below, and could only hear the roars of the ferocious beasts. From time to time, the roars would ring in their ears, causing their blood and qi to surge. From this, it could be seen how terrifying that ferocious beast was. The night passed in silence. The next morning, the rain stopped, but the sky was still hazy, making people feel very depressed. After a night of rushing, they didn't know how many miles they had traveled, but the end of the desert was still far away. Elder Wan, have you been here before? Qin Feiyang could not help but ask. I've been here once, but after flying for 10 days and 10 nights, I still couldn't see the end, so I gave up. Elder Wan said. What? Even after 10 days and 10 nights, we still can't reach the end? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other in disbelief. If it was not for Elder Wan, they would not have been able to survive in the desert of death. It would have taken them at least 1 or 2 years to reach the end. Only now did the three of them realize that they had greatly underestimated this desert. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. Waiting like this seemed to be a waste of time, so he said, Elder Wan, I'd like to cultivate. Sure. Elder Wan nodded and put up a battle aura barrier. He smiled and said, sit inside the barrier and focus on cultivating. I'll call you when we reach the end. Is that okay? Ling Yunfei was surprised. Elder Wan said proudly, of course. There are no more than 10 people in the entire county of Yan who can destroy this barrier. That's not a lie. Feng Ling Er smiled and sat down with her legs crossed. She took out a few qi-amassing pills and threw them into her mouth, entering a state of cultivation right away. Obviously, it was not the first time she had done so. Ling Yunfei watched in amazement and imitated him. Seeing Qin Feiyang standing still, Elder Wan was puzzled. Aren't you going to cultivate? Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, I'm not going to cultivate here. Then where are you going? Elder Wan was puzzled. Suddenly he seemed to think of something and asked, is it that castle? Qin Feiyang nodded. Is there any difference between cultivating in the castle and cultivating outside? Elder Wan was puzzled. This, Qin Feiyang stammered and couldn't think of an answer for a long time. Seeing this, Elder Wan shook his head and smiled. He waved his hand and said, go ahead. I'll take care of the outside. Don't worry. Thank you, Elder. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and expressed his thanks. Then, he entered the ancient castle with a thought. What a mysterious boy. Elder Wan muttered. But the next moment, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air again. Seeing that he was still in the battle aura barrier, he finally entered the castle again and began to copy the Huan formula. Now he was already an 8-star martial master. When he finished copying the Huan formula, he would become a 9-star martial master and return to his former peak. In less than a year, he broke through from a 1-star martial artist to a 9-star martial master. Even in the entire Great Qin Empire, no one could match this speed. But in Qin Feiyang's view, it was still too slow. He couldn't wait to return to the imperial capital and turn it upside down. He was looking forward to the expressions of those who had heard him when they saw him return to the capital. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Sure enough, he couldn't see the end of the desert. Elder Wan was also a little tired. He rested for a night and continued on his way. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. This morning, a small valley came into Elder Wan's sight. The valley covered an area of about 10,000 feet. It was surrounded by the desert like a small oasis. Elder Wand stopped in the sky and looked down at the valley. In the valley, the vegetation was lush. In the center, there was a lake of more than 100 feet. The lake water was clear and reflected the hazy sky. I really didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful place in the depths of the Death Desert. Elder Wand's eyes lit up. Suddenly, his aged body shuddered violently. Could it be this place? He hurriedly said, Ling Yunfei, look, is it here? Ling Yunfei shuddered and woke up from his seclusion. He stood up and looked down. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also walked out of the castle. Feng Ling Er also opened her eyes. It looks like it. After observing for a moment, Ling Yunfei couldn't be sure. Then he opened his clothes and a crescent-shaped jade pendant appeared. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at the jade pendant, their eyes flashing with suspicion. This jade pendant was given to my mother by my father before he died. Before coming to Yen City, my mother gave it to me, and the original map of that place is in here. Ling Yunfei took off the jade pendant and explained a little. Then he used a little force and the crescent-shaped jade pendant, which was originally one piece, suddenly broke into two halves. And the inside was hollow. There was a piece of paper hidden. Ling Yunfei took it out and spread it out. The paper was as thin as a cicada's wing and there was a drawing of a valley with a lake in the middle. The drawing on the paper was almost exactly the same as the valley below. Without a doubt, that was the place they were looking for. The few of them looked down at the valley, looking rather excited. After so many hardships, they finally found it. Feng Ling Er suddenly frowned and looked into the distance. That's not right. Didn't you say that it was at the end of the desert? But look, where is the end of the desert? Ling Yunfei put away the map and said sadly, perhaps in my father's eyes, this is the end of the desert. Qin Feiyang patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, the dead are already gone. As a living person, you still have to continue to work hard to live. I believe that your father in the underworld would also wish for you to live happily every day. Thank you. Ling Yunfei looked at him gratefully and said, before my father died, he left a sentence. He said that he left his name on a stone wall beside the valley. Let's go and find it. If there is a name, it must be here. Okay. Elder Wan led the three of them and swooped down. Roar. However, the four of them had not gone down yet. The desert around the valley trembled violently. Then, accompanied by a series of roars, huge tails broke out of the sand and set off a sandstorm. Elder Wan's face changed and hurriedly led the three of them to the sky. Standing high in the sky, he looked down with his brows tightly knitted together. As for Qin Feiyang and the other two, their faces and eyes were full of horror. Those were the tails of the sand whales. But each tail was as big as a house and was fierce. One could only imagine how shocking the body hidden in the sand was. And there were a lot of them. There were at least 30 to 40 of them wandering around the valley in the sand. Elder Wan observed for a moment and his face suddenly darkened. He said, the strength of these sand whales is comparable to a one-star combat emperor. What? The three of them turned pale with fright. What kind of concept was this? One had to know that there were no more than 20 combat emperors in the entire Yen County. However, there were at least 30 to 40 battle emperor level beasts in this place alone. How could they enter the valley? Feng Ling Er said in surprise, have you noticed that the behavior of these sand whales is very strange? It gives people the feeling that they are protecting the valley. That's right. They are protecting the valley. As long as we don't barge into the valley, they won't attack us. Elder Wan said in a deep voice. Although the sand whales were blocking the way, their hearts were burning with passion. 30 to 40 combat emperor level sand whales were guarding this place. There must be some kind of peerless treasure in this valley. Qin Feiyang asked, Ling Yunfei, how did your father get in? That year. Ling Feng was still a disciple of the martial imperial palace. At most, he was probably a martial great lord. With just the strength of a martial great lord, how could he barge in? Not to mention leaving his name on the stone wall beside the valley. So, there must be a trick. Ling Yunfei shook his head and said, I don't know either. Because of this, my father didn't tell my mother. That's strange. Qin Feiyang frowned. Feng Ling Er thought for a moment and suggested, how about this? We can just go down from the top of the valley and land directly inside the valley. Elder Wan shook his head and said, no, those sand whales can also fly. If we really do that, we will definitely anger them. At that time, not to mention entering the valley, I am afraid that we will be chased by them. Qin Feiyang asked, Elder, can't you do anything to them? Actually, I am only a one-star combat emperor. Unless the chief palace master comes personally. Elder Wan smiled bitterly. Chapter 163. Qin Feiyang thought for a while, then turned to Elder Wan and said, Elder, why don't you lure them away and we sneak in? Elder Wan said, how can we do that? What if there are other beasts in the valley? Won't you be dead? Qin Feiyang thought for a while and said, we were able to escape from Zhuan, we should be able to do it this time. Feng Ling Er and Ling Yunfei nodded. Zhuan was an 8-star combat emperor. Even he couldn't sense the ancient castle, so it shouldn't be a problem for him to stay alive. It was impossible for there to be a beast stronger than a combat emperor in the valley. This, Elder Wan pondered for a while and nodded, all right, be careful. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent Feng Ling Er and Ling Yunfei to the ancient castle. Then, Elder Wan grabbed him and landed on a hill. It was about 500 meters away from the valley. Kid, don't try to show off. Do what you can. Elder Wan exhorted. Then, he rose into the air once again and flew towards the valley. Roar! A roar was heard. A giant creature rushed out from the sand and stood in front of Elder Wan. Its whole body was black and its body was dozens of feet long. It was like a towering mountain, ferocious and awe-inspiring. Sand whale. Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. Elder Wan stopped in the air and cupped his hands. Everyone, I have no ill intentions. Please make way for me. However, what answered him was a giant tail. Another sand whale rushed out from the ground, its huge tail covering the sky and the sun as it fiercely smacked towards Elder Wan. If that's the case, I have no choice but to offend you. Elder Wan's body trembled, and a powerful force burst out of his body. Clang! At the same time, a giant blade appeared in the void behind him. It was dozens of feet long and its whole body was black. It emitted traces of black light and rolled in all directions, stirring up heaven and earth. Seeing this scene, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. That giant blade was not a real giant blade. It was Elder Wan's fighting soul. The fighting soul was his trump card. Normally, it wouldn't be activated unless it was a matter of life and death. But now, Elder Wan had activated his fighting soul right from the start. This showed how cautious he was. Slash! As he roared, the giant blade tore through the sky, and the sharp edge tore the sky and split the earth. It actually split the two sand whales in half. Voila! Blood poured down like a waterfall, dyeing the void red. Roar! This move angered the entire group of whales. One by one, the sand whales rushed out of the ground and pounced toward Elder Wan with a ferocious might. Several battle spirits appeared behind them. The fighting souls were the same. They were both pitch-black eyes, as if they were formed by demonic qi. They could absorb people's minds. Jiang Haotian, those eyes can confuse a person's mind. You're too weak to resist them. Don't look. Elder Wan shouted. The old hand reached out, and battle qi gushed out like a torrent, turning into iron chains with arms. They tore through the air and tied up all the sand whales. At the same time, he shouted, "I can't hold on for long. Take the opportunity to go in." Qin Feiyang immediately used the smoke-gathering steps. Like a sharp arrow, he shot out from the sand dune. 400 meters. 300 meters. 200 meters. He pushed his speed to the limit, leaving behind a series of afterimages. Puff. However, at this moment, Elder Wan spat out a mouthful of blood. A sand whale broke free from its restraints and pounced toward Qin Feiyang with a terrifying ferocious might. "Evil beast, die!" Elder Wan shouted angrily. The giant blade on his back tore through the sky like lightning and cut the sand whale in half. Roar! The other sand whales were even more irritable. The iron chains condensed from battle aura broke one after another, making loud clanging sounds. Elder One also spat out mouthfuls of blood. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was only 50 meters away from the valley. At most, 5 breaths. No, he only needed 3 breaths to enter the valley. However, the sand in front of him suddenly surged. Qin Feiyang's expression changed, and he hurriedly took a step forward. Whoosh! A white light flashed past his original position. It was so fast that even Qin Feiyang could not catch its true appearance. Following closely, the blood-red light turned in the air and attacked his back again. Qin Feiyang felt cold all over and entered the castle without hesitation. What is it? It's so fast. He was extremely surprised. However, in the current situation, it was a race against time. He could not continue to hide. Taking out the Chang Shui, he left the castle without hesitation. Immediately, he saw a small snow-white snake on the ground in front of him. The small snake was only the length of a chopstick. Its whole body was like jade. Its pair of long and narrow eyes were emitting a soul-stirring cold light. White Jade Devil Snake. Qin Feiyang could not help but exclaim. The white jade devil snake was very beautiful. It was even more beautiful than jade. However, its toxicity made one's scalp tingle. Once bitten, even an antidote pill could not completely eradicate it. Moreover, its toxin could destroy one's cultivation. One's body would be good and bad until one finally died. That's right. Ling Yunfei's father must have been poisoned by the white jade devil snake, which was why his injuries kept repeating. Hiss. When the white jade devil snake saw Qin Feiyang, it immediately turned into a ray of light and shot towards the space between Qin Feiyang's eyebrows. Jiang Haotian, hurry up. Elder Wan's voice came from the sky. At this moment, his entire body was dripping with blood. The war spirit was about to collapse. Qin Feiyang was burning with anxiety. Although this white jade devil snake was not a war emperor level beast, its speed was extremely fast. It was almost impossible to catch with the naked eye. How could he fight with his little strength? Let's go all out. He gritted his teeth and rushed forward, his gaze locked onto the white light. Seeing that he was about to collide with the white jade devil snake, he suddenly raised his hand and slashed at the white jade devil snake's head. Hiss. The white jade devil snake was split into 2 on the spot. Chang Shui was unharmed. However, Qin Feiyang was sent flying by that terrifying force. Chang Shui also flew out of his hands. Even the right hand that was holding Chang Shui, accompanied by a cracking sound, the skin and flesh were split open, and the bones were broken. Bang! He was like a meteorite, smashing into the sand dozens of meters behind him. The blood in his body was surging, and his internal organs were injured. He couldn't even stand up, and his consciousness was quickly being devoured by the darkness. With a thought, he pulled Feng Ling Air out of the castle and shouted, "Hurry up and help me." Although Feng Ling Air was petite and exquisite, she was extremely strong. She bent down and picked up Qin Feiyang, then ran over to pick up Chang Shui. When she saw the white jade devil snake beside her, she couldn't help but feel a chill in her body and mind, and quickly ran towards the valley. So fragrant, so soft. Qin Feiyang's consciousness was muddled as he muttered softly. The smell of Feng Ling Er's body was very pleasant to smell. It was a unique fragrance of a virgin. Somewhere, it was also very soft and springy. But hearing these words, a row of black lines suddenly appeared on Feng Ling Er's forehead. What kind of time was it, and he still had such evil thoughts? Little bastard, he was really a pervert. If it weren't for the crisis now, she would definitely throw Qin Feiyang on the ground and then kick him a few times. Finally, Feng Ling Er ran into the valley. When she ran in, she glanced at the stone wall next to her. Sure enough, she found a name somewhere. Ling Feng. This proved that it was this valley. Under the name, there was a line of big words engraved. Those who enter the valley, please kneel down. What does it mean? Feng Ling Er held Ling Yunfei, with a head full of doubts, and ran towards the lake without looking back. At the same time, listen to the 8 directions, observe the 4 directions. Unexpectedly, they didn't find the shadow of a beast. Those who enter the valley, please kneel down. This sentence should be left by Ling Feng. It might mean that if you want to enter the valley, you must first kneel down and worship, and those sand whales may not block the way. Qin Feiyang's weak voice reached Feng Ling Er's ears. Feng Ling Er stopped and asked suspiciously, "Is that what it means?" "Inform Elder Wan and let him try." Before Qin Feiyang could finish, he fainted. Feng Ling Er turned to look at the sky and shouted, "Elder Wan, quickly kneel down and worship." Kneel down? Elder Wan raised his eyebrows. He was the War Emperor, a powerhouse who stood at the top of the pyramid in the county of Yen. His pride didn't allow him to do such a thing. He shouted, "Is the valley dangerous?" "Not for now." Feng Ling Er shook her head. "Well then, I'll retreat first. When you come out, I'll come to pick you up." Elder Wan said and then let go of the battle chi chain. Dragging his severely injured body, he turned around and flew away. Some of the sand whales immediately roared and chased after him. The other group of sand whales surrounded the valley and blocked the entrance, staring coldly at Feng Linger. Feng Ling Er's face was a little pale. But seeing that those sand whales didn't intend to rush into the valley, she was slightly relieved. She took out a healing pill and a bone-replenishing pill and fed them to Qin Feiyang. "Little bastard, wake up," she mumbled to herself, looking very anxious. Although the sand whales didn't come in, she felt a little scared to be stared at by so many powerful beasts. Dozens of breaths passed. Qin Feiyang's closed eyelids finally moved. He slowly opened them and whispered, "Am I dead?" "Not dead." Feng Ling Er was overjoyed. Finally, there was someone who could talk. Qin Feiyang also breathed a sigh of relief. "No, my injuries are too serious. I have to recuperate first," he muttered to himself. He grabbed Feng Ling Er and entered the castle. "Little Qin Zi, are you okay?" Wolf King hurried forward and asked with concern. "I'm lucky that I'm not dead." Qin Feiyang forced a smile. He took out a supreme healing pill and a bone-replenishing pill and stuffed them into his mouth. Although Feng Ling Er had fed him before, the effect of ordinary pills couldn't be compared with that of supreme pills. Half an hour later, his injuries had more or less recovered. "Let's go out and have a look." Qin Feiyang got up. His eyes flashed, and he appeared in the valley with Feng Ling Er. When they saw those sand whales, the 3 of them couldn't help but feel numb. Why didn't they come in? Ling Yunfei was puzzled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I don't know, but this is a good thing. Let's look around and see if there are any treasures." "Wait, I want to see the name left by my father first." Ling Yunfei turned around and looked at the sand whales blocking the entrance. He swallowed and walked over slowly. Chapter 164. All the sand whales stared at the three of them. Their huge pupils were filled with a terrifying ferocious light. However, not a single sand whale stepped into the valley. It felt like in their eyes, this valley was a sacred and inviolable place. After a dozen breaths, the three of them carefully came to the front of the stone wall, almost a meter away from the sand whale blocking the entrance. They could even clearly feel its breathing and hear its heartbeat. Ling Yunfei looked at the stone wall, and when he saw the two words Ling Feng, his face was filled with sorrow. "Father," he muttered to himself, reached out, and touched every stroke, and couldn't help but burst into tears. Qin Feiyang said, "The cause of your father's death should be related to the white jade magic snake, but I have already killed it. It can be considered as revenge for your father." Feng Ling Er glanced at the yellow sand outside the exit and asked, "Is there only one white jade magic snake?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "White jade magic snake is rare. To be able to meet one, our luck is already very good." "Very good luck?" Feng Ling Er was stunned, turned around and rolled her eyes at Qin Feiyang, encountering such a ferocious creature, and said that it was good luck. She really didn't know if there was a hole in this guy's head. "Why is your IQ so pitiful? Can't you see that I'm being sarcastic?" Qin Feiyang despised. "You," Feng Ling Er immediately gnashed her teeth. "All right, stop talking nonsense." Qin Feiyang impatiently scolded. Ling Yunfei was still feeling sad. How could they be fooling around here? However, when he thought of the white jade magic snake, he couldn't help but feel scared. If he had been accidentally bitten at that time, he would have followed in Ling Feng's footsteps. Moreover, that white jade magic snake was not weak, at least the strength of the War King. If not for Chang Shui, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven to enter the valley. A moment passed. Ling Yunfei wiped away his tears and smiled. "All right, let's go." In the valley, silence reigned. Along the way, the three of them did not see a single ferocious beast. Not to mention ferocious beasts, there wasn't even a bug. Strange. Is a place like this worth the protection of so many sand whales? Feng Linger frowned, her face full of puzzlement. After searching for half a day, he still couldn't find a single medicinal herb, let alone a peerless treasure. Ling Yunfei said, "There doesn't seem to be any danger at the moment. Why don't we split up?" "I agree. This will save a lot of time." Feng Ling Er raised her hand. "I don't agree." Qin Feiyang shook his head. What if he encountered danger? He was not afraid. He could just hide in the castle. However, Feng Ling Er and Ling Yunfei had nowhere to hide. Until evening. They almost turned the entire valley upside down, but still couldn't find anything of value. The three of them sat on a rock by the lake and lowered their heads. They were very frustrated. They spent a lot of effort to break in, but in the end, there was nothing. Wasn't it obvious that they were playing tricks on them? Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at Ling Yunfei. "Think about it again. What else did Auntie say to you?" Ling Yunfei shook his head. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Show me the map your father left." Ling Yunfei took out the map and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Spreading out the map, Qin Feiyang looked at it carefully. He didn't miss any small detail. After a while, a trace of disappointment crept into his eyes. This was a very pure map of the entire valley, and there were no hidden mysteries. He was going to return it to Ling Yunfei. But suddenly, he sniffed with force, and a trace of suspicion crept into his eyes. Then, he put the map on the tip of his nose and sniffed it. There was a faint fragrance that went into his nostrils. "Did you find something?" Ling Yunfei and the other two looked at him in surprise. Qin Feiyang remained silent, his brows tightly knitted. "I understand." After a while, a bright smile crept onto his face. "Understand what?" Ling Yunfei and Ling Yunfei were puzzled. What was this guy up to? "Look carefully." Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously. walked to the lake, put the map in the water, and soaked it. What are you doing? Ling Yunfei's face changed greatly and hurriedly rushed up. Although the map was no longer useful, it was left to him by his father. It had the meaning of treasuring. Don't worry. This paper has been waterproof. It won't rot. Qin Feiyang reached out to stop him and said with a smile. He took the map out of the water and opened it again. The map didn't change at all, but there was a red arrow symbol on the lake. Qin Feiyang, what's going on? Feng Ling Er and Ling Yunfei were very surprised. There's a special kind of ink. It will show up when it meets water. When the water dries up, it will disappear. And it can be preserved for hundreds of years. And this kind of ink usually emits a wisp of fragrance, but it's very light. If you don't pay attention, it's easy to miss. Qin Feiyang smiled. Fragrance? The two were stunned and went up to smell it carefully. There really is. Feng Ling Er looked at Qin Feiyang strangely and said, Ling Yunfei has been carrying it with him for so long, but he didn't smell it. You can smell it at once. Do you have a dog's nose? Qin Feiyang's face darkened and said angrily, I say, woman, can't you be a little bit more virtuous? Besides, I can smell it, which means that I'm careful. Unlike you, careless and heartless. Be careful that you don't become a leftover woman one day. How dare you curse me? Feng Ling Er gnashed her teeth and suddenly said with a teasing smile, who was the one lying in my arms and saying that I smell good? Little brother, are you interested in me? Ling Yunfei was stunned and looked at the two strangely. Qin Feiyang was also a little stunned. Being molested by a woman? If this could be tolerated, what else could be tolerated? He stepped closer to Feng Ling Er and put his arms around her slender waist. He said with an evil smile, little girl, are you going to play with fire? Do you want me to help you? Feng Ling Er's pretty face immediately turned crimson. Bastard, how dare you molest me? The next moment, she flew into a rage out of humiliation and pushed her knee up. Qin Feiyang hurriedly retreated and was so scared that he was sweating all over. If he was hit, wouldn't his balls be smashed on the spot? This stinky woman was really ruthless. Ahem. Ling Yunfei couldn't stand it anymore. He coughed and teased, I don't object to the two of you flirting, but shouldn't you wait until you're done with your business? Qin Feiyang and Feng Ling Er glared at him at the same time. Phew. Qin Feiyang secretly let out a sigh of relief. He threw the map to Ling Yunfei and turned around to look at the lake in front of him. He said, since the arrow points to this lake, then there must be something important underneath this lake. Ling Yunfei said hurriedly, then what are we waiting for? Let's go down. Wait. Qin Feiyang grabbed him and shook his head. Don't worry. Your father left a mark, which means that he must have been here and even entered the lake. But why didn't he bring the thing out? After Qin Feiyang said this, Ling Yunfei and Feng Ling Er's expressions became serious. Qin Feiyang said again, I suspect that this lake is not as calm as it looks. After that, he picked up a wash basin-sized stone and threw it out with force. It smashed into the center of the lake and immediately splashed up big waves. Whoosh! At the same time, streaks of white light shot out of the waves. Qin Feiyang and the other two's expressions changed and they hurriedly hid behind a stone. Their whole bodies were dripping with cold sweat. Because that white shadow was none other than the white jade demonic snake. Moreover, not one or two. It was a group. It was a group. It was hard to imagine how many there were. The three of them looked out and saw that the white jade demonic snakes had returned to the water and the water surface was gradually calming down. Feng Ling Er turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, didn't you say that the white jade demonic snake is very rare? But why is there a nest here? Ling Yunfei said with lingering fear, fortunately, I didn't jump down just now, otherwise, speaking of this, he couldn't help but shiver. The white jade demonic snake is indeed rare, but in this place, we can't treat it with common sense. But just now, we didn't see a single white jade demonic snake by the lake, which means that they are basically concentrated in the center of the lake and at the bottom of the lake. The white jade demonic snake I met at the entrance should have heard the commotion outside and went out to check it out. In other words, Ling Yunfei, your father was not injured at the entrance, but after entering the lake, he was bitten by the white jade demonic snake. Qin Feiyang thought. Ling Yunfei looked at the lake, his expression gloomy to the extreme. Feng Ling said, now is not the time to think about revenge, not to mention that there are so many white jade demonic snakes, who knows which one bit your father back then? Ling Yunfei said, then let's kill all of them. Feng Ling said, that depends on whether you have the ability now. Let's think about how to get into the lake first. I have a way to get into the lake, but I'm afraid it's almost impossible to get out. Qin Feiyang furrowed his brows. He could use the castle to slowly sink to the bottom of the lake, but he couldn't use the castle to rise from the bottom of the lake. At that time, they would have to swim up by themselves. But this method obviously wouldn't work. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang said, how about this, you guys hide here and wait for me, I'll go down and take a look. If there's an accident, at least we won't be trapped at the bottom of the lake. Ling Yunfei shook his head and said, even if you go to the bottom of the lake, it won't help, because you can't leave the castle. Qin Feiyang said, since we're already here, we can't just turn around and go back. Ling Yunfei said, no, since we came together, we have to face any difficulties together. I'll go down with you, senior sister Ling, we'll wait outside. I don't even have the image crystal, what's the use of staying outside? Feng Ling rolled her eyes. Stop talking nonsense, do as I say. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he walked to a big tree, took out the chang shui, cut the tree into several pieces, and threw them into the lake one by one. The last piece of wood floated in the middle of the lake. Chapter 165. Be careful. Wait for my news. After reminding Feng Ling and Li Zi, Qin Feiyang rushed out from behind the stone, stepped on the broken wood floating on the lake, and swept toward the center of the lake. Whoosh! As soon as he landed on the last broken wood, a group of white jade magic snakes jumped out of the water and swarmed toward Qin Feiyang. At this moment, Ling Yunfei and Li Zi's hearts were in their throats. If they were bitten, not to mention one Qin Feiyang, even 100 Qin Feiyang would die today. Whoosh! In a flash, Qin Feiyang entered the castle. The castle also fell into the lake and quickly sank to the bottom of the lake. Wolf King opened his eyes, glanced at Qin Feiyang, and sighed. Little Qin Zi, you're courting death. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Haven't you heard of this saying? Wolf King said disdainfully, Brother Wolf wants to see what kind of treasure you can get. Don't be trapped at the bottom of the lake and cry for your parents. Don't I still have you to accompany me? Qin Feiyang smiled slyly. Fuck, Brother Wolf forgot. Wolf King suddenly got up and roared at Qin Feiyang, you bastard, you actually dragged Brother Wolf into this. Do you still have a conscience? Brother Wolf must have been blind to be friends with a bastard like you. You're really slow. Qin Feiyang shook his head in disdain. He calmed down and listened carefully to the movements outside. What should we do? Brother Wolf hasn't fallen in love yet. He can't be trapped here. Who can save Brother Wolf? Little Qin Zi, you scammer, Brother Wolf won't let you go even if I become a ghost. The Wolf King cried out in grief and paced around anxiously. Shut up. Qin Feiyang glared at it and mocked, look at your cowardly face. Why don't you think about which female wolf would like you? Wolf King said disdainfully, Tisk, there's nothing in this world that Brother Wolf is afraid of. Today, Brother Wolf will risk his life to accompany you. Villain? Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with this ruffian wolf. He focused all his attention on the movements outside. The sound of water could be heard in the castle. It was like the sound of a fish swimming in the water. But it was definitely not a fish. It was the white jade devil's snake. Moreover, as the castle continued to sink, the sound became louder and louder. This meant that, the more white jade demonic snakes he encountered, the more white jade demonic snakes there were. The Wolf King asked in puzzlement, "Little Qin, is the speed at which this ancient castle is sinking fast?" "I'm sensing it. It's quite fast," Qin Feiyang said. Wolf King sighed, "If only I could see the scene outside. It's too hard to listen like this." "Don't be naive. It's good enough to hear the sound outside." Qin Feiyang shook his head. If he couldn't even hear the sound, it would be even more difficult. Hundreds of breaths passed. The noise outside actually gradually became softer. A man and a wolf looked at each other. Was there no white jade demonic snake at the bottom of the lake? Gradually, the sound disappeared completely, and the castle fell into a dead silence. Qin Feiyang said, "Do you want me to go out and take a look?" Wolf King hurriedly said, "Don't alert the snake. Wait until it reaches the bottom." About 100 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang sensed that the castle was not moving. It should have sunk to the bottom. He listened carefully for a while. Hearing nothing, Qin Feiyang planned to go out and take a look. Brother Wolf said with a sinister smile, "Little Qin Zi, if you die outside, this castle will be Brother Wolf's. You don't have any objections, do you? If you don't have any objections, write a will first, in case Uncle Yuan comes back and snatches it from Brother Wolf. I'm done with you." Qin Feiyang glared at him angrily and disappeared in an instant. At the bottom of the quiet lake, Qin Feiyang suddenly appeared. The first feeling was pressure. The water pressure was so strong that he almost suffocated. He hurriedly operated his true qi to protect his body and then looked around. The lake water was very clear, like a mirror. He could clearly see the surrounding scenery. And within his line of sight, there was not a single white jade demonic snake, which made him breathe a sigh of relief. He looked up again. In the water layer dozens of meters above, there was a group of white jade demonic snakes playing happily. He had to hurry up. Otherwise, when those white jade demonic snakes found him and waited at the bottom of the lake, it would be bad. He glanced at the bottom of the lake and didn't find anything strange, so he slowly swam forward, trying not to make any noise. After swimming for about a dozen breaths, his eyes suddenly trembled. More than 10 meters ahead, there was a human skeleton sitting cross-legged. And that skeleton was very complete. Its whole body was as white as jade, without any trace of decay. Even on the surface, there was a layer of hazy treasure light, like a peerless divine skeleton. At the bottom of the lake, there was a skeleton. This gave Qin Feiyang a very, very big impact. Could it be that the sand whale outside and the white jade demonic snakes in the lake were guarding this divine skeleton? He temporarily suppressed the doubts in his heart and carefully observed the skeleton's surroundings. He didn't find any white jade demonic snakes, so he swam over. Looking closer, he found a jade box next to the skeleton's feet. The jade box was pure white, about a foot long, with a strange pattern engraved on it, which seemed to be the symbol of a cluster of flames. "What's this?" Qin Feiyang reached out to grab the jade box and was shocked to find that the jade box was as heavy as a mountain. Even if he used both hands, he couldn't move it half an inch. "Is it stuck to the bottom of the lake?" Qin Feiyang frowned. He simply let go and entered the castle. "What did you find?" Wolf King asked. "I found a skeleton and a jade box, but the jade box is very heavy. I can't move it." Qin Feiyang explained the general situation. Wolf King's pupils constricted and he said in surprise, "Soaking in the water, the skeleton didn't show any signs of decay. How strong was he when he was alive?" Qin Feiyang said, "It's very likely that he was a peerless expert." Wolf King's spirit was lifted, and he said with rapid breathing, there must be some incredible treasure in the jade box left behind by such a person. Hurry up and get it in. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded, took a few deep breaths, and appeared next to the skeleton again. Looking up, he saw that the white jade demonic snakes didn't notice anything unusual at the bottom of the lake, so he held the jade box with both hands and used all his strength. Finally, the jade box moved. At the same time, Qin Feiyang thought, and the next moment, he appeared in the castle with the jade box. Bang! As soon as the jade box landed on the ground of the castle, it hit with a deafening sound. So heavy. Wolf King's eyes were shining, lying next to the jade box, drooling. Qin Feiyang said, "Try and see if you can open it. I'll go outside and look for other things." Wolf King said, "Go, look carefully." Qin Feiyang appeared at the bottom of the lake again and looked around the skeleton, but he didn't find anything else. He went to other places to look. After searching the entire bottom of the lake, he didn't find a second treasure. So, he returned to the skeleton and looked at it curiously. Immortal bones, according to the quality, it can definitely be sold for a high price. But who would sell a skeleton? He was quite conflicted. If someone was here, they would definitely roll their eyes on the spot and despise him. He was already thinking about money. Let's just move to the castle first. When we go back, I'll ask Manager Li if I can sell it for money. Qin Feiyang grabbed the skeleton's arm and exerted a little force. His eyes suddenly revealed a strange light. It was actually very heavy. It was also very strong and hard. Next, he used 120% of his strength but still couldn't move the skeleton. He even felt that it was heavier than the jade box. Qin Feiyang was not depressed, but his eyes were shining. The strength of this skeleton must have been heaven-defying when it was alive. Every single bone could be forged into a divine weapon. He grabbed one of the skeleton's ribs and pulled with all his strength. Although he couldn't move all of it, it would be good if he could get a rib. However, dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break the rib. Instead, his arm was cut by the bone spur next to him, and blood was gushing out. I don't believe it. Qin Feiyang looked at the wound and his stubbornness came up. He took out the chang shui and cut it lightly, cutting off a rib. It's actually so easy. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Whoosh! At this moment, there was movement above. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw a group of white jade demonic snakes swooping down crazily. Not good, it must be the blood flowing out of my wound that alarmed them. His face changed, and he hurriedly cut off 5 more ribs, grabbed 6 ribs, and entered the castle. However, Qin Feiyang didn't notice. The blood flowing out of his wound was actually all absorbed by the skeleton. As for the skeleton, it seemed to have moved slightly. In the castle, Qin Feiyang sat on the ground. His entire body was drenched and he was gasping for breath. Wolf King glanced at him and locked his eyes on the 6 ribs. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he pounced on it. Qin Feiyang was stunned, and his veins were bulging. He roared, "Bastard, you even want to snatch the bones, are you a dog? Brother Wolf is willing." The Wolf King smiled proudly and bit down on one of the ribs. Immediately, a crunching sound could be heard. "It's broken?" Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. He used all his strength and couldn't break it, but it was actually bitten off by Wolf King. Ow! Wolf King immediately howled, and blood flowed out of his mouth. As for the rib bone, it fell to the ground with a clang. "It's not broken." Qin Feiyang looked down and his expression froze. The ribs were intact. Then what was with the sound from before? Could it be? He raised his head and looked at the Wolf King. When he saw the Wolf King jumping up and down in pain, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. It turned out, it wasn't Wolf King who broke the ribs. It was the ribs that broke 2 of Wolf King's teeth. Wolf King said angrily, you can still laugh? Don't you have any sympathy? Serves you right, this is retribution. Who told you to snatch it? Qin Feiyang got up, crossed his arms, and did not hide the gloating on his face. This was called eating one's own medicine. Humph. The Wolf King snorted coldly and looked at the 6 ribs again. Although there was still greed in its huge eyes, there was also a trace of fear. Qin Feiyang bent down and picked up a rib. Looking at the broken part, it was as flat as a mirror. Although the bones were hard, the Chang Shui seemed to be sharper. Uncle Yuan said that the Chang Shui was given to him by his mother. But why didn't he remember that his mother had such a sharp dagger? Chapter 166. Qin Feiyang now felt that Chang Shui's origin was even more mysterious than Uncle Yuan's. After taking a healing pill, Wolf King urged, "Little Qin Zi, think of a way to open the jade box." "Didn't I ask you to think of a way?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Brother Wolf has tried everything, but I can't open it. I really want to pee to quench its thirst." Wolf King was indignant. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and looked down at the jade box. Since Chang Shui could even break the ribs of skeletons, this jade box should be able to be opened, right? Let's do it. He walked to the jade box, grabbed Chang Shui, and gently scratched the jade box. At that moment, a hole appeared. So awesome. Wolf King's eyes glowed green and he drooled. It turned out that this dagger was the real treasure. Qin Feiyang was also very excited and quickly broke the jade box in half. After opening the jade box, the man and the wolf were stunned. There was only a piece of iron inside. The iron was rectangular and dark. It was about the size of the cover of a book and had a strong ancient aura. "Hey!" Qin Feiyang looked at it curiously for a while and suddenly said with surprise, "White-eyed wolf, did you find that the material of this iron seems to be similar to the material of the 6-word divine formula?" Wolf King nodded and said, "It does seem to be similar. Let's compare it." Qin Feiyang put Chang Shui on the ground and was about to take out the iron. However, he found that the iron was heavier than he imagined and he couldn't pick it up at all. What's going on? He was stunned. After pondering for a while, he finally understood, and the corners of his mouth pursed into a trace of a bitter smile. It turned out that the real heavy thing was not the jade box, but the iron. "White-eyed wolf, move aside." Qin Feiyang got up, pulled up his sleeves, and clasped the edge of the jade box with both hands. He exerted all his strength, causing the veins and blood vessels all over his body to bulge. Large beads of sweat also appeared on his forehead. After using all of his strength, he finally poured the iron block out of the jade box. With a loud bang, it smashed into the ground. The iron block was very thin, only about 4 or 5 centimeters. There were no patterns or words on it. However, the more Qin Feiyang looked at it, the more confused he became. "No, it's not a piece of metal. It's a book." His eyes trembled, and he spent a tremendous amount of effort to flip the iron block over. As expected, 2 ancient and majestic characters entered his line of sight. The pill scripture. In other words, the side just now was the reverse side. This was the true face. When he saw the 2 words, pill scripture, Qin Feiyang's head buzzed as if it was about to explode. Although he didn't know what the pill scripture was for the time being, every stroke exuded a majestic aura that impacted his soul. It was hard to imagine how great the person who wrote these 2 words was. Wolf King was also attracted by the pill scripture. His eyes were burning. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he said, "Look, there are 2 small words next to the 2 words, pill scripture." Qin Feiyang looked. There were 2 small words. Wutian. These 2 words were written with iron hooks and silver strokes, and they also carried a magnificent aura. Wutian? This should be a name. But why have I never heard of this name? Is it not someone from the great Qin Empire? Qin Feiyang squatted on the ground and looked at the 4 words on the cover. To be able to write such words, his cultivation must have reached the realm of heaven and earth. He couldn't help but feel excited. Perhaps this was really a supreme treasure. Wolf King urged, "Open it and take a look." Qin Feiyang swallowed his saliva and tried his best to open the cover. The first page appeared. The pages of the book were the same as the pages of the 6-word divine formula. They were made of an unknown divine iron and were as thin as a cicada's wings. On top of it, there were lines of small words that were densely packed together. Qin Feiyang simply sat on the ground and read carefully one by one. Gradually, his eyes emitted a fanatical light. This pill scripture recorded all pill formulas and refining methods. Just the first page recorded more than 30 pill formulas. The most basic healing pill, bone replenishing pill, body tempering pill, chi gathering pill, face retaining pill, illusion pill, bliss pill, myriad spirit pill, and so on. There were even beast spirit pills, calamity spirit pills, marrow cleansing pills, scarlet-colored glass pills. All the pills that Qin Feiyang had heard of were written on it. There were also some pills that he had never even heard of. On the first page, there was a pill called Potential Pill that he had never heard of. White-eyed wolf, this time we've really found a treasure. No, this can no longer be described as a treasure. This is a treasure trove. We're going to be rich. Qin Feiyang was so excited that his hands were trembling, and he couldn't even speak properly. What did he lack the most right now? Without a doubt, it was pill formulas. And this pill scripture contained a myriad of things, enough for him to enjoy for a lifetime. From now on, he would no longer have to worry about pill formulas. Wolf King said anxiously, "Then take a look, is there any pill that can make Brother Wolf speak?" Telepathy was not very convenient after all. For example, after Wolf King and Qin Feiyang separated, it could not use the image crystal to talk to Qin Feiyang. It could only gesture. Who knew what it was gesturing? It was all guesswork. Wait a minute, let me take a look. Qin Feiyang searched carefully for a moment, and suddenly saw the 3 words Calamity Pill. His eyes immediately surged with bone-piercing killing intent. Calamity Pill. He would never forget it. Back then, it was because he was forced to take the Calamity Pill that he lost all his cultivation and became a cripple. What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Wolf King looked at him in surprise. Nothing. Qin Feiyang shook his head, the killing intent in his eyes receding like the tide. Just you wait. Sooner or later, I will let you guys have a taste of the Calamity Pill. Muttering to himself, he continued to read. Finally, he shook his head and said, "There's nothing on the first page. Let me look at the second page." However, when he turned to the second page, he realized that he couldn't turn it. Could it be that my cultivation is not enough again? Qin Feiyang was stunned, and looked at the bottom of the page. Sure enough, there were a few small words written on it. Only when you step into the War Chief realm can you turn to the second page. Wolf King immediately lost interest, his gaze shifted to Chang Shui, and began to have ideas about Chang Shui. When Qin Feiyang noticed Wolf King's gaze, he frowned and asked, "What are you looking at?" Nothing. Wolf King hurriedly shook his head, as if he had a guilty conscience. After getting along with him for so long, Qin Feiyang had long known this ruffian wolf like the back of his hand. He could see through its thoughts with a single glance. His expression became serious, and he said in a deep voice, "White-eyed wolf, let me tell you, you can snatch anything, except for Chang Shui." Why? Wolf King looked at him suspiciously. Chang Shui was given to me by my mother. Qin Feiyang grabbed Chang Shui and lowered his head to size it up. There was a melancholy between his brows that could not be removed. Wolf King fell silent. It knew about Qin Feiyang's background. Therefore, it was very clear how much Chang Shui meant to Qin Feiyang. Wolf King raised its paw and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, and said seriously, "Don't worry, Brother Wolf promises that I won't have any ideas about Chang Shui in the future, and will protect it with you." So serious? Qin Feiyang was stunned. To be honest, he was still not used to it. However, in his heart, he was quite grateful to Wolf King. After putting Chang Shui into his cosmos bag, Qin Feiyang stood up and used half an hour to move the pill scripture to the altar and placed it beside the iron box. At that moment, he collapsed from exhaustion and lay on the ground. His whole body was covered in sweat, and water could be wrung out of his clothes. "Wutian, who the hell is this person? How precious the elixir recipe is, and it's all recorded in the pill scripture." He looked at the top of the castle, his eyes full of doubts. A moment later, he finally recovered. He got up and walked to the altar, opened the 6-word divine formula, and compared the two. The materials were actually the same. Wolf King said, "Do you think the 6-word divine formula was also written by this person called Wutian?" "No. Although the materials are the same, the font is different. The font of the pill scripture is very beautiful and complete. But the font of the 6-word divine formula is a bit sloppy and not standard. It's obvious that it's not from the same person." Qin Feiyang said. "Hee, if Ling Yunfei and the others knew that we had such a treasure, what kind of expression would they have?" The Wolf King snickered. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Ling Yunfei, we must tell him, but Feng Ling Heir and Elder Wan, we must hide it from them first. After all, the pill scripture is too important. If there is a slight mistake, it will lead to a fatal disaster." "That's right. No matter if they have evil intentions or not, it's always right to take precautions." Wolf King nodded. "Well, it's time to inform Ling Yunfei and the others." Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal and infused it with true qi, quickly recovering. Not long after, the shadows of Ling Yunfei and Feng Ling Heir appeared. "How is it?" Ling Yunfei asked anxiously. "I didn't find anything," Qin Feiyang said helplessly. "With so many sand whales and white jade demonic snakes guarding, how could there be nothing?" Feng Ling Heir frowned. "There is, but it's a skeleton. I got a few ribs." Qin Feiyang picked up 6 ribs and waved them at the image crystal. Feng Ling Heir's face darkened, and said speechlessly, "You won't even let go of the bones of the dead, aren't you afraid of being punished by the heavens? Then what else can we do? We can't go back empty-handed, right? Also, don't underestimate these bones of the dead. These are all divine weapons. After I get out, I'll let you guys slowly appreciate them." Qin Feiyang laughed. "TSK." Feng Ling Heir looked disdainful and asked, "Do you have a way to get out? There are white jade demonic snakes everywhere in the water, how can I get out? Help me think of a way." Qin Feiyang was very distressed. If they were trapped here, sooner or later, they would run out of ammunition and food. He and Wolf King would only have a dead end. However, seeing Qin Feiyang's distressed look, Feng Ling Heir was very happy. She laughed gloatingly, "Anyway, you and that wolf cub are not good things. It's good to be trapped down there, so that you won't come out and bring disaster to the country and the people. This stinking woman." Wolf King was burning with anger and roared, "Little Qin Zi, when we get out, find a chance to force her down and give birth to a nest of little Qin Zi. Let's see how she can be so awesome in the future." "A nest?" Qin Feiyang's face darkened, and he directly gave it a slap on the head and said angrily, "Do you think I'm a pig? A nest? If you don't know how to speak, don't say it." Feng Ling Heir frowned and said unkindly, "Are you two talking bad about me? Who dares to talk bad about you, a tigress?" Chapter 167. Although there were many white jade demonic snakes at the bottom of the lake, they shouldn't be able to stop Elder Wan. However, the premise was that Elder Wan could enter the valley. "Okay, don't worry. We'll go find him right away." Ling Yunfei responded, turned off the image crystal, and ran toward the entrance of the valley with Fengling air. Wolf King asked, Little Qin Zi, how long do we have to wait before Brother Wolf can openly be presumptuous in Yen City? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Don't worry, it'll be soon. Wolf King said angrily, Nonsense, how can I not be anxious? Since leaving Iron Ox Town, Brother Wolf has been hiding in this godforsaken place every day. I'm almost depressed. Qin Feiyang rubbed its head and said with a smile, Okay, I know you've been working hard. Let me tell you something. On the day Yi and the first prince get married, I'll announce my true identity. On the day of the wedding? Wolf King was slightly stunned and said in surprise, Are you playing a big game of chess? It's not a big game. It's just a small game. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he turned to look at the pill scripture. After a quick glance, his eyes were fixed on the 3 words, potential pill. Outside, at the entrance of the valley, Ling Yunfei and Fengling Air stood on a steep rock and scanned the front. As far as the eye could see, other than the group of sand whales, there was nothing else. Ling Yunfei said, All the sand whales that were chasing Elder Wan have returned. He should be hiding somewhere to recuperate now. Grandpa Wan, where are you? Fengling Air shouted into the void. Elder Wan, answer us if you hear us. Ling Yunfei also shouted. His voice was loud and reverberated in all directions. Whoosh! Soon, a figure of light broke through the air. It was Elder Wan. The blood on his body was still wet. At the same time, those sand whales turned around and looked at Elder Wan, their eyes full of ferocity. Elder Wan didn't dare to get close. He stood in the sky far away and looked down at the 2 of them. He asked, Are you coming out? Ling Yunfei shook his head and said, There's no way out yet, because Jiang Haotian is trapped at the bottom of the lake by the white jade demonic snake. Elder, quickly come in and help him. Trapped at the bottom of the lake? Elder Wan frowned. He glanced at the group of ferocious sand whales and said helplessly, They are blocking the entrance. How can I get in? Fengling Air said, Grandpa Wan, please condescend for a moment. Kneel? Elder Wan asked. Ling Yunfei nodded. This, Elder Wan hesitated. Ling Yunfei hurriedly said, Elder Wan, this disciple knows that it is too difficult for you to kneel, but Jiang Haotian is this disciple's only friend. Please help him. Elder Wan remained silent, his brows tightly knitted. Senior sister, what should we do? Ling Yunfei turned to look at Fengling Air anxiously. Fengling Air said, Go down and prove it to Elder Wan. Prove? Ling Yunfei was stunned, then suddenly realized. He jumped a few times and landed at the entrance. Without hesitation, he knelt on the ground with a face full of sincerity. All the sand whales immediately turned to look at him. When Ling Yunfei bowed 3 times and kowtowed 9 times, the sand whales actually retreated to the side and made a path for him. So magical? Elder Wan was dumbfounded. Fengling Air and Ling Yunfei were also in disbelief. Then, Ling Yunfei stood up and carefully took a step forward. The sand whale next to him was motionless. Seeing this, Ling Yunfei let out a long breath and walked out step by step. The sand whales just looked at him and didn't hurt him. After walking out, he looked up at Elder Wan and said with a smile, Elder, did you see? This is the only way to get in and out of the valley. Whoosh! Elder Wan landed next to Ling Yunfei and looked at the sand whales. Roar! However, as soon as he landed, a group of sand whales rushed toward him with a murderous aura. Ling Yunfei's expression changed and he urged, Elder, hurry up. Damn it! Elder Wan cursed. He bent his legs and knelt on the ground. However, those sand whales didn't stop because of his kneeling. How could this be? Ling Yunfei was very surprised and doubtful. Bastards, do you think I'm really afraid of you? Elder Wan suddenly stood up and a terrifying aura roared from his body. It wasn't easy for him to put down his self-esteem and kneel down to worship, but this was still the case. He couldn't take it anymore. Ling Yunfei said hurriedly, "Elder, please don't do anything. Leave quickly." He could roughly guess. It must be because Elder Wan had killed a few sand whales earlier. Therefore, these sand whales wouldn't let him in no matter what. If they continued to fight, he was afraid that even he, Feng Ling Heir, and Qin Feiyang would be in danger. Elder Wan frowned. Looking at Ling Yunfei's anxious face, he really couldn't bear to refuse. He nodded and said, "Okay, be careful. I'll wait for you in the distance." After saying that, he rose into the air, turned into a stream of light, and quickly disappeared. Those sand whales also stopped. Ling Yunfei turned around and cupped his hands. "Seniors, can you let me in again?" The leading sand whale shook its head. Ling Yunfei's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly said, "Why?" The sand whale didn't answer him. "What should we do now?" Ling Yunfei panicked. "Right. Quickly informed Qin Feiyang." He took out the image crystal and quickly became excited. When Qin Feiyang learned of the situation, his heart suddenly sank to the bottom. If he couldn't get out, what was the use of getting the alchemy scripture? The Wolf King was so anxious that he stomped his feet. "Don't panic." Qin Feiyang took a few deep breaths and quickly calmed down. He lowered his head and pondered. There was always a way out. It was impossible for there to be no way. Suddenly, his gaze was fixed on the 6 ribs. Sand whale and white jade demonic snake were obviously guarding the skeleton. Then they should be in awe of the skeleton. If he put the skeleton's bones on his body, would the white jade demonic snake not dare to approach? When he told this idea to Wolf King firmly opposed it. Because this was just a guess. What if something happened? Forget it. If we don't try, we will be trapped here forever. What's more, even if it doesn't work, I can just hide in here. They can't hurt me. Qin Feiyang said. "All right, be careful." Wolf King warned, feeling very worried. Qin Feiyang nodded, holding 3 ribs in each hand. With a thought, he appeared next to the skeleton. Immediately, he couldn't help but feel his scalp explode. The skeleton was surrounded by white jade demonic snakes. It was so densely packed that even wind couldn't get through. If it was another person, seeing this scene, he would definitely be scared to death. Qin Feiyang was also ready to return to the castle immediately. But he found that those white jade demonic snakes, although fierce, did not approach and surrounded 2 meters away. They did not attack him. In those narrow little eyes, when they saw the ribs in Qin Feiyang's hand, there seemed to be a trace of fear. Is it really as I guessed? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He lowered his head to look at the ribs and slowly lifted them up. Those white jade demonic snakes also retreated, the fear in their eyes was even stronger. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang was ecstatic. Without wasting any time, he swam towards the lake. The white jade demonic snakes in front of him also retreated. Soon, he found another abnormality. In the eyes of the white jade demonic snakes, in addition to awe, there was also a trace of anxiety. Are they afraid that I will take these bones out? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. But now, he was not in the mood to care. As long as he could leave the lake, nothing else mattered. Dozens of breaths passed. Qin Feiyang finally came out of the water and saw the sun again, making him feel as if a lifetime had passed. Whoosh! Dong! The group of white jade demonic snakes was always around him, jumping up and down anxiously. Qin Feiyang ignored them and quickly swam towards the shore. When he climbed ashore, the white jade demonic snakes also followed. Never ending? Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "If you don't hurt me, why would I do this? Don't pester me anymore." However, Those white jade demonic snakes did not listen at all. Who is this person? Is he worthy of these fierce beasts' protection? Qin Feiyang looked back at the lake, full of doubts, and ran towards the entrance. Feng Ling Er was still standing in front of the entrance, racking her brains to think of a way. Hey, why are you still here? Suddenly, a puzzled voice came into her ears. Qin Feiyang. She was refreshed and hurriedly looked up. Her face suddenly turned pale, and she shouted, "Stop!" Qin Feiyang stopped and looked at her in confusion. The distance between the two was only a dozen meters. First, tell me clearly, what is this situation? Feng Ling Er was very surprised. Thousands of white jade demonic snakes surrounded him but did not hurt him. This was simply a strange story in the world. It's all thanks to them. Qin Feiyang grinned and waved the 6 ribs. Feng Ling Er frowned. I told you that these bones are treasures, but you don't believe me. Qin Feiyang shrugged helplessly. Feng Ling Er's mind was in a mess. Since when could even the bones of the dead be called treasures? Wasn't it too ridiculous? Hiss. At this moment, a white jade demonic snake, with a harsh hiss, rushed towards Feng Ling Er. The other white jade demonic snakes also seemed to have received orders and rushed towards Feng Ling Er. Damn it, what's this situation? Feng Ling Er's face was pale. These little things are quite smart. Qin Feiyang murmured. Obviously, the white jade demonic snake wanted to threaten him with Feng Ling Er. Clang! He quickly took out Chang Shua and shouted, "Whoever dares to move again, I will destroy these bones." The white jade devilish snakes stopped in unison and turned their heads to look at Qin Feiyang. There was actually a trace of pleading in their cold eyes. Get out of the way. Qin Feiyang shouted coldly. Now, he certainly could not give the 6 ribs to them. Otherwise, he and Feng Ling Er would be finished. However, the white jade demonic snakes did not get out of the way, as if they were in a stalemate with him. Roar! A sand whale suddenly let out a furious roar. The white jade demonic snakes finally got out of the way. Qin Feiyang hurried over and joined Feng Ling Er. Feng Ling Er said in surprise, "Scoundrel brat, what the hell is this dead person's bone in your hand? Let's go out first." Chapter 168. Feng Ling Er looked at Qin Feiyang with disdain. Wasn't it just a few broken bones? Was there a need to act like, with the bone in hand, I have the world? Besides, these sand whales were not something that the white jade magic snake could compare to. They were all existences at the War Emperor level, would they buy this? However, the next moment, she was dumbfounded. The sand whales that were blocking the entrance all retreated, making a wide path. Qin Feiyang frowned. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and leave. Oh. Feng Ling Er nodded her head, took a step forward, and ran towards Ling Yunfei. Qin Feiyang followed closely behind. The white jade magic snake and the sand whale also followed behind them. The scene was extremely vast. After the 3 of them met up, Ling Yunfei anxiously looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Are you all right?" "I won't die, let's go." Qin Feiyang smiled and urged. Feng Ling Er turned her head to look at the group of fierce beasts behind her, and said worriedly, "I'm afraid that no matter where we go, they will follow us." Qin Feiyang frowned, and said, "Call Elder Wan over." Feng Ling Er shouted, "Grandpa Wan, come over quickly." Not long later, Elder Wan broke through the air and arrived. When he saw the scene, his old eyes were filled with bewilderment. Shwa! He vigilantly landed beside the 3 of them, looked at Qin Feiyang, and asked, "Stinking brat, tell me honestly, what did you do to anger the heavens?" "Let's go first," Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. Elder Wan nodded, waved his old hand, and swept up the three of them into the sky. Roar! Dozens of sand whales roared towards the sky, bringing with them a world-shaking might as they rushed into the sky, chasing after the four of them. The group of white jade magic snake also chased after them in the desert like a madman. Elder Wand said in shock and anger, "Bastard, what exactly did you do?" Qin Feiyang said, "It's because of these bones." Elder Wand frowned. He grabbed a rib and examined it carefully. Several breaths later, his eyes shone brightly and his old face was filled with shock. This old man has never seen such hard human bones before. If it can be forged into a weapon, it will definitely be invincible and invincible. Elder Wand said excitedly. Feng Ling Er and Ling Yunfei looked at each other in disbelief. Elder Wand turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked with a beaming smile, "Haotian, do you think you can?" without waiting for him to finish speaking. Qin Feiyang snatched it over and put it into his Qinkuan bag. He smiled and said, "Elder, don't be in such a hurry. We can discuss it slowly after we return." All right. Elder Wand nodded, but there was a glint in his eyes. Behind him, bestial roars shook the heavens. His ferocious might covered the sky and covered the earth. Their faces turned pale. Feng Ling Er said anxiously, "Grandpa Wan, they're still chasing after us. What should we do?" "Unless we return the bones to them," but Elder Wan frowned. It was obvious that he was reluctant. Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shook his head without leaving a trace. He understood what Ling Yunfei meant and took everyone to hide in the castle. But now, Wolf King was inside. Once Elder Wan went in, he would definitely associate it with his true identity. After all, this old man was the law-enforcing elder of the martial imperial palace. How could his mind be simple? Come back. Just when the four of them were at a loss, an ethereal voice sounded in the minds of all the sand whale and white jade demonic snake. However, Qin Feiyang and the other three didn't hear it. Suddenly, the sand whale and white jade demonic snake both stopped, looked at the four of them coldly, and turned back. What's going on? Why aren't they chasing? Sensing the abnormality behind them, Qin Feiyang and the others looked back and were extremely surprised. Isn't it better if they don't chase? Well, let's go back to Yen City at full speed. Jiang Haotian, tell us about the situation in the valley. Elder Wan breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile. Then he propped up a battle chi boundary and led the three of them away without looking back. And on the same night, with a loud boom, the valley sunk into the desert. Along with it, dozens of sand whales and countless white jade demonic snakes disappeared. 21 days passed. Yen City finally entered Elder Wan's sight. Elder Wan said, "Brat, we've arrived at Yen City. Come out quickly." These days, Qin Feiyang had been in the castle, copying the return formula. The last stroke had been half successfully copied. Hearing Elder Wan's call, he closed the iron book and appeared in the boundary. At the same time, Ling Yunfei and Feng Ling Er also opened their eyes one after another. "We're finally back, but this time, I didn't get anything." Feng Ling Er sighed and glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Why are you waiting for me? It's not like I forced you to go." "Bastard," Feng Ling Er gritted her teeth. Whoosh! Elder Wan led the three of them and flew directly into the city. Although there were rules in Yen City that forbade flying on beasts, this was only for ordinary people. Experts like Elder Wan were not restricted. And the news of Qin Feiyang's return immediately spread like wildfire in Yen City. For a time, spies from various forces rushed to the Martial Imperial Hall. It could be said that the clouds were moving from all directions. Martial Imperial Hall. Conference Hall. The beautiful woman had been waiting for a long time. When Qin Feiyang and the other two entered, they were immediately scolded. The three of them were also unprecedentedly obedient, lowering their heads and silently being scolded. A moment later, the beautiful woman seemed to be thirsty. She picked up the teacup, took a sip, and asked, "Do you dare to sneak out again in the future?" The three of them shook their heads. The beautiful woman said, "Since you know your mistake, then don't go to the pig cage." What? The three of them were stunned. Ling Yunfei asked, "Elder, you really got a pig cage? Do you think we're joking?" Elder Wan snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang and the other two immediately broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, they were not stubborn. Otherwise, they would really go to the pig cage for a while. It was scary just thinking about it. The beautiful woman waved her hand and said, "All right, you can leave. I still have something to discuss with Elder Wan." "Wait." Elder Wan hurriedly got up and said with a smile, "Jiang Haotian, this old man has worked hard on this journey. Do you want to give me one of those human bones?" "Of course, this is what I should do." Qin Feiyang took out a rib and handed it over with both hands. "Eh." The beautiful woman's face suddenly revealed a look of surprise. "Then I'll take my leave first." Qin Feiyang had just turned around when he seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Elder Wan and smiled awkwardly. "Seniors, now that I'm back, shouldn't you return Fatso and Lu Hong's image crystals to me?" The beautiful woman took out 2 image crystals and placed them on the table. She said coldly, "If you dare to run around again, I'll confiscate them all." I won't. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and went forward to put away the image crystals. Then, like a thief, he quickly slipped away. After the three of them left the main hall, the beautiful woman could not help but shake her head and laugh. Then, she looked at the rib in Elder Wan's hand and frowned. "Where did you get this?" "Jiang Haotian brought it out from that place," Elder Wan said as he sized up the human skeleton. His old eyes shone brightly. "This human bone is glowing with a layer of treasure light. This person's strength must have reached the peak when he was alive. When did such an expert appear in the county of Yen?" The beautiful woman was puzzled. Elder Wan said, "I'm also puzzled. Why don't we discuss it with the hall master? To be honest, I want the hall master to go with me to the desert of death again and get the skeleton out of the lake." "Okay." The beautiful woman nodded. Soothing Lake. As soon as Qin Feiyang returned, Shizheng frowned and looked at him unhappily. Qin Feiyang was a little embarrassed. He laughed dryly and said, "Senior, I'm really sorry about that." Shizheng said, "I hope there won't be a next time." "Definitely not." Qin Feiyang raised his hand and promised. After sending Shizheng away, Qin Feiyang walked into the pavilion. Fatso and Lu Hong immediately ran down from the 2nd floor. "Jiang Laoda, I missed Fat Lord so much." Fatso opened his arms and ran towards Qin Feiyang, the fat all over his body jiggling. Qin Feiyang's face twitched as he dodged sideways. Fatso immediately looked at him with hidden bitterness. Qin Feiyang shivered, goosebumps all over his body. "Can you stop disgusting me?" Glaring fiercely at Fatso, he walked to the side of the tea table and sat down on the chair. He gently rubbed his forehead, looking a little tired. Seeing this, Lu Hong very sensibly squatted at the side to make tea. Fatso sat next to Qin Feiyang and laughed. "Boss, you went out for more than 50 days. Did you get any treasures?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him, took out the image crystal, threw it on the tea table, and said, "Take good care of it in the future. If it's confiscated again, I'm not responsible." Fatso chuckled and hurriedly put it away. "The tea is ready." Lu Hong poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of Qin Feiyang. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang thanked her, picked up the teacup, and said, "Tell me about the situation in Yen City these days." Lu Hong said, "Except for the marriage between the eldest prince and Lin Yi, nothing major happened. During this time, we also issued medicinal pills every 10 days according to your instructions. Since you left, we have issued 5 times." Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, what about the blood-killing token? Lu Hong shook her head and said, Elder Ji is investigating, but he hasn't found anything. There is no news from Steward Li. Qin Feiyang drank tea while pondering. He had an intuition that the origin of the blood-killing token was definitely not simple. After a while, Qin Feiyang put down the teacup and said, Fatso, give me the eldest prince's medicinal herbs. Fatso frowned and said, do you really plan to refine for him? 10 sets of medicinal herbs, I can get 5 sets, which is equivalent to 20 million gold coins. Why wouldn't I refine? It's just that it's not so easy to take away these superb scarlet fire-colored glass pills. But this royal family is really rich. They actually used 5 superb scarlet fire-colored glass pills as a betrothal gift. Qin Feiyang lifted the corner of his mouth and sneered. Fatso was shocked. He took out a Qinkuan bag, handed it to Qin Feiyang, and asked, what are you planning? Qin Feiyang took the Qinkuan bag, looked at it a little, and said faintly, if there is no accident, the eldest prince will definitely come to me in these 2 days. At that time, you can say that I am cultivating and have no time to receive him. Okay. The two nodded. Qin Feiyang said, Lu Hong, help me prepare a brush and ink. Chapter 169. After Lu Hong went upstairs, Qin Feiyang asked, Fatso, how's her performance these days? Fatso chuckled and said, there's no problem at all. She's probably been completely conquered by your obscene power, boss. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said angrily, can you be more serious? Fat Lord is already very serious, okay? Fatso said, feeling wronged. Fine. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and said, just pretend I didn't say anything. Duh. With a series of footsteps, Lu Hong came down from upstairs with a pen, ink, and paper. She came to the tea table and neatly placed them in front of Qin Feiyang. Then she sat aside and helped to grind the ink. She looked like a well-behaved little maid. Qin Feiyang observed Lu Hong for a moment and said with a faint smile, actually, you don't have to lower yourself. We can get along like friends, but the premise is that you don't do anything bad to me. Lu Hong was taken aback and asked, is it really okay? Of course. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Lu Hong also smiled, her face glowing. Not to mention, it was quite charming. In fact, Lu Hong's beauty was not bad. It was just that in the past, she often wore heavy makeup, which covered her essence. Because at that time, she had no strength or background. If she wanted to survive and go further, she had to give up her dignity in this way to please others. And since she followed Qin Feiyang, she no longer had to please others. She also slowly realized that she could live so easily. So gradually, she didn't care much about her appearance, which made her more charming. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He took 2 pieces of blank paper and wrote with a pen. After a while, he made 2 lists. Then, he took out his Qinkuan bag and threw it to Fatso, saying, take a look. See if there are any of the herbs on this list in my Qinkuan bag. All right. Fatso immediately picked up the 2 pieces of paper and checked them carefully. Suddenly, he turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, Boss Qin, Fat Lord can roughly guess what this list is. It should be illusory form pills, but why can't Fat Lord understand this list? This is a potential pill. Qin Feiyang said. As he spoke, 2 beams of light burst out from his eyes. Potential pill? Fatso was stunned and asked in confusion, how come I've never heard of Fat Lord before? Qin Feiyang said, not just you, even I haven't heard of it before. Hurry up and look for it. Oh. Fatso responded and busied himself with a belly full of doubts. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then turned to look at Lu Hong and said, I want to talk to you about something. What is it? Seeing Qin Feiyang's serious expression, Lu Hong could not help but become nervous. Qin Feiyang said, actually, my real name is not Jiang Haotian, but but Qin Feiyang. What? Lu Hong suddenly stood up and looked at him in shock. The person wanted by the royal family had actually been by her side all this time? What's there to be surprised about? Fatso pursed his lips and said. You know about it too? Lu Hong's face was filled with astonishment. Fatso said helplessly, not only Fat Lord knows about it, even Ling Yunfei and Feng Ling Er know about it. Only you, this fool, have never seen through it. What do you mean? Lu Hong frowned. Have you forgotten about the wolf in the castle? Fatso rolled his eyes. Lu Hong recalled carefully and finally understood. Her heart was filled with bitterness. Everyone who went to the castle had guessed Qin Feiyang's true identity, but she was completely unaware. She was too stupid. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, now you have two choices, leave or stay. Leave? Lu Hong frowned and said, aren't you afraid that I'll tell on you? That's because I misjudged you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Lu Hong looked at him in a daze. Originally, she thought that Qin Feiyang would say to kill her to silence her. But she did not expect that the result would be such an answer. Immediately after, Lu Hong smiled and said, I believe in Fatso's judgment. Fatso often whispered in her ear that Qin Feiyang was not a simple person. Perhaps this was an opportunity given to her by God, a way out. She was willing to bet on this. Fatso smiled and said, Fat Lord also has times when he misjudges. Lu Hong said with a smile, then I can only accept my fate. Ah. Fatso was stunned, then shook his head and laughed. He gave Lu Hong a thumbs up, his eyes full of praise. Lu Hong also never expected this ending. Once, she hated Qin Feiyang. Because back then in the pill hall, Qin Feiyang slapped her mercilessly and even almost killed her. Originally, she thought that they would be enemies forever. Unexpectedly, they became friends today. It was as if the heavens were playing a huge joke on her. And Qin Feiyang was also very satisfied with Lu Hong's performance. He took out a top-grade red fire-colored glass pill and handed it over with a smile, take it. In this way, Qin Feiyang only had 5 pills left. Thank you. Lu Hong took the top-grade red fire-colored glass pill, her hands were trembling. She had been longing for this pill for a long time. Now that she finally got it, she felt like she was dreaming. Qin Feiyang said, oh right, prepare 2 more bamboo slips. Lu Hong was stunned and asked doubtfully, prepare the bamboo slips for what? Fatso rolled his eyes and said, nonsense, of course it's to give you a perfect martial skill. Lu Hong's delicate body trembled, her eyes were filled with tears, and her vision became blurred. A perfect martial skill, she didn't even dare to think about it before. Because that was an extravagant hope. It was impossible to achieve in a lifetime. But now, the person in front of her not only gave her a top-grade red fire-colored glass pill, but also a perfect martial skill. Was this really not a dream? Why? You don't want it? Then I won't force you. Qin Feiyang teased. Think about it, I'll go get the bamboo slips now. Lu Hong hurriedly nodded and ran upstairs happily. Fatso sighed, she's so easily moved, seems like she's quite simple. Everyone has a simple side, but under the cruel environment, it was buried. How is it? Did you find it? Qin Feiyang asked. Fatso nodded, there are all the medicinal ingredients for the illusory form pill, enough for you to refine dozens of them, speaking of which. A trace of suspicion crawled up in Fatso's eyes, and he frowned, but there are a total of 33 kinds of medicinal ingredients for this potential pill, and there are only 2 kinds in the universe bag. I say, boss, what kind of potential pill does it have? Fatso looked at him in confusion. It's a secret for now. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously. At this time, Lu Hong took 2 bamboo slips and walked downstairs. The perfect martial skill that Qin Feiyang gave to Lu Hong was the mystic moon palm and gale steps. After copying it, he stood up and put away the universe bag, and said to the two of them, "No matter what, you have to help me find the medicinal ingredients for the potential pill within 3 months, no matter the cost." "All right." The two of them nodded. "Also, if anyone asks, don't say the words potential pill," Qin Feiyang warned, and then went to the castle. He first refined a illusory form pill and returned to Jiang Haotian's appearance. Then, he began to refine the 10 scarlet fire-colored glass pills. Outside, Fatso frowned and said, "Qin Feiyang doesn't seem to be joking this time. When has he ever joked?" Lu Hong rolled her eyes at him, lowered her head and muttered to herself for a while, then said, "Find a chance to go to the treasure pavilion and ask Manager Li, that's easy. Fat Lord will go find a disciple of the Martial Imperial Palace and send a message to Manager Li. You take care of things here." After Fatso finished speaking, he got up and left in a hurry. In the evening, Manager Li came to the soothing lake. When he saw the list, he immediately frowned. 33 medicinal ingredients, he had never seen them before. He looked at Fatso and asked, "Can I ask, what kind of medicinal ingredients are these?" Lu Hong said with a smile, "Sorry, Jiang Haotian told me not to reveal it." Manager Li said, "Then where is he now?" Lu Hong said with a faint smile, "Sorry, he is cultivating in seclusion and will not receive anyone for the time being. If you want to see him, I can make an appointment for you in advance." Appointment? Manager Li's old face tensed up, and he was very unhappy. In any case, he was the manager of the treasure pavilion and a war emperor. Now, he had to make an appointment to see a little martial master. What kind of world was this? "Senior, you can't blame Jiang Laoda for this. He is really too busy. If there's anything, we can talk about it." Fatso chuckled. The world is really degenerating day by day. Manager Li sighed and nodded, "Okay, I will try my best to help you find these medicinal ingredients, but in terms of price," Lu Hong said with a smile, "Senior, we are all old acquaintances. If you can give me a discount, try to give me a discount. You really don't want to suffer any losses. How much do you want?" Manager Li was a little helpless. "As much as you have," Lu Hong said. "Okay, do you have an image crystal?" Manager Li asked. "Of course." Fatso chuckled and took out the image crystal. Lu Hong also took it out. This kid is really generous. Manager Li couldn't help but feel envious. The three of them bit their fingers and dripped a drop of blood on each other's image crystal, establishing a contract bridge. This way, it would be convenient for them to contact each other in the future. Dong. At this time, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" Fatso frowned. "His Royal Highness the eldest prince is here." Quickly opened the door to welcome him. A shout was heard. "So arrogant?" Fatso lifted the corner of his mouth and shouted mercilessly, "Fat Lord is meeting an important guest. Wait outside for Fat Lord." Hearing this, the eldest prince, who was standing outside the door, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Next to the eldest prince, there was a young man in luxurious clothes. It was Lin Han's son, Lin Hao. Beside the two of them stood 4 palace guards. But these 4 guards were stunned at this moment. Lin Hao was also dumbfounded. Someone actually dared to speak to the eldest prince like this? After coming back to his senses, one of the guards suddenly shouted, "You dare to let the eldest prince outside in the cold wind? Are you tired of living? Damn! So what if he's the eldest prince? This is not the palace. Don't be a tyrant here. Since you are here, you have to abide by Jiang Laoda's rules. If I ask you to wait outside, then wait outside. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Fatso was extremely arrogant. He didn't take the eldest prince seriously at all. This is outrageous. Chapter 170. Stop! The first prince shouted. The guard turned around and looked at him with a face full of anger. First Prince, your body is priceless. How can you be humiliated by these lowly commoners? That's right, although we are in the Martial Imperial Palace, we have every reason to ask the higher-ups of the Martial Imperial Palace for a reasonable explanation for how they treated you. Lin Hao also fanned the flames. Last time, Qin Feiyang went to the Lin family and took away 5 million gold coins. He and his father, Lin Han, still couldn't let go of it. If I say stop, then stop. When is it your turn to interrupt? The first prince said in a low voice. The 4 guards and Lin Hao's expression froze and immediately fell silent. Actually, the first prince was very angry and puzzled. From the time he met Qin Feiyang until now, he had never done anything to offend Qin Feiyang. But why would Qin Feiyang make things difficult for him at this moment? Could it be that because he could refine top-quality pills, he had reached the point of looking down on everyone? If that was the case, as the first prince of the royal family, he would definitely not let this go. In the guest hall, Manager Li was extremely shocked. Did this fatso eat a leopard's guts? Fatso said shyly, don't look at Fat Lord like that. Fat Lord is not a girl. Ugh. Manager Li was stunned and directly retched. This damn fatso was really disgusting. He didn't know how Jiang Haotian could stand it. Cough cough. He coughed and said in a low voice, Fatso, although the first prince doesn't dare to do anything to you in the Martial Imperial Palace, if you leave the Martial Imperial Palace, with his identity and status, he has 100 ways to kill you. You'd better keep a low profile. Fatso said disdainfully, TSK, only 100 ways. If he dares to provoke Fat Lord has 10,000 ways to teach him how to behave. Manager Li's face twitched, and he had the urge to beat Fatso up. It seemed that he couldn't stay in this place any longer. He didn't want to lose control and beat up Fatso. This old man is leaving. You don't have to send me off. After putting away the image crystal, Manager Li turned around and left in a hurry. Senior, please wait a moment. At this moment, Lu Hong opened her mouth and earnestly requested, I hope that you can help us gather these herbs within 3 months. 3 months? Manager Li frowned and nodded, all right, I'll start dealing with it when I get back. Lu Hong walked over and opened the door. She stepped aside and said with a smile, Senior, take care. Manager Li walked to the door and smiled at the first prince. The first prince bowed in a very humble manner. After that, Manager Li walked out and left the soothing lake without looking back. Only then did Lu Hong look at the first prince. She bowed and asked, Your Highness, is there anything I can help you with? Lin Hao said angrily, Are you going to let the first prince stand here forever? Who are you? Lu Hong furrowed her brows. Lin Hao said proudly, I'm the first young master of the Lin family, Lin Hao. I've heard a lot about you, young Master Lin. Now that I've met you today, you're indeed a talented and outstanding man. Lu Hong said with a smile, appearing gentle and courteous. Lin Hao became more and more proud. But suddenly, Lu Hong changed the topic and said coldly, We don't have many people here, so there's no one to serve you. If you want to be a first young master, go back to your Lin family. I won't see you out. Lin Hao's face immediately turned green. The first prince frowned and said with a smile, Miss, can you give me some face? How would I dare not give face to your highness? However, Jiang Haotian is cultivating in seclusion. Before he started, he told me not to meet anyone. If your highness is here for me and Fatso, we'll naturally welcome you. But if you're here for Jiang Haotian, please go back first and come back another day. Lu Hong said with a smile. How dare you? He really thinks he's a big shot. Tell him to come out immediately and kneel to greet your highness. The 4 guards flew into a rage. The first prince had lowered himself and came to visit in person, but he was rejected at the door. This was simply too much. Kneel to greet? Lu Hong raised her beautiful eyebrows. Ouch! Fatso shouted and walked to Lu Hong's side with his head held high. He glanced at the 4 guards and said disdainfully, "Fat Lord, I was wondering who it was. So it's just 4 lackeys. Why are you so arrogant?" In fact, no one was more arrogant than him now. "Who are you talking about?" The 4 guards' faces were gloomy. "I'm talking about you. Can't you tell? Idiots." Fatso sneered. Clang. The 4 guards drew their swords at the same time. "Oh. You want to fight? Come on, Fat Lord is standing here. If Fat Lord hides, he'll be your grandson." Fatso crossed his arms in front of his chest and raised his nose to the sky, showing extreme arrogance. "I can't take it anymore. I'm going to kill you." The 4 guards were furious. They raised their swords and slashed at Fatso's head. But at this moment, the first prince took a step forward and gave each of them a loud slap. The 4 guards were stunned on the spot. They were all fighting for the first prince. They thought that the first prince would reward them well. But they didn't expect that they would be slapped in front of everyone. The first prince shouted, "What did I teach you? You have to be humble and polite. Don't you remember? Apologize to them now." They were also very angry. Didn't they see Shizhen glaring at them from next door? They still dared to fight here. They really didn't know what they were doing. "I'm sorry, both of you. It's our fault. Please forgive us." The 4 guards didn't dare to hesitate and hurriedly bowed to Fatso and Lin Hao to apologize. Fatso smiled disdainfully and looked at the first prince. He said lightly, "Your Highness, even Stewardly didn't see Jiang Lao de just now, so we didn't discriminate against anyone. Please go back." In other words, he was saying that even Stewardly couldn't see him, let alone him. If he knew what was good for him, he should get out of here as soon as possible. The first prince grew up in the palace and had experienced a lot of intrigue. How could he not understand? But he didn't get angry. He chuckled and said, "Since Brother Jiang is cultivating in seclusion, then let's forget about this matter. But I want to talk to the 2 of you. Do you have time?" Fatso and Lu Hong looked at each other with a trace of doubt in their eyes. Lu Hong stepped aside and stretched out her hand. "Your Highness, please come in." The first prince smiled and walked into the living room. Lin Hao and the 4 guards were about to follow him in. Bang! Fatso closed the door and shouted, "Trash, wait outside." Trash. Lin Hao clenched his hands together with a ferocious look on his face. The first prince smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Fatty, Lin Hao is my future brother-in-law. Do you think you can give me some face?" Fatso said disdainfully, "TSK, who in Yanqing City doesn't know that Lin Yi is not his sister?" Lu Hong smiled and said, "Your Highness, just say it if you have something to say." A cold light flashed in the depths of the first prince's eyes. He smiled and said, "Who do you think has a better future between me and Jiang Haotian?" "What do you mean?" The 2 frowned. The first prince said, "To be honest, I want you to follow me. As long as you agree, I will let my father personally come forward to reconcile with the Danwang Hall. At that time, you don't have to continue to hide like this. Poach people." Fatso couldn't help but sneer secretly. However, he didn't make a sound and paid attention to the changes in Lu Hong's expression. Lu Hong was also a little surprised. But she didn't show any expression of being moved. After a little hesitation, she smiled and said, "Your Highness, I don't believe that a pie will fall from the sky. You are all smart people." The first prince smiled and said, "I want you to be undercover around Jiang Haotian and help me control his whereabouts." Fatso joked, "We haven't agreed yet, and you have already told us your purpose. Aren't you too confident?" Although Jiang Haotian is a superb alchemist, he has no background and is not strong. If one day, Martial Emperor Hall no longer protects him, will he have a good end? You also know that the Danwang Hall will definitely not let him go. But I am different. I have the entire royal family behind me. Even if I make a big mistake, I will be safe and sound. You too, you are sensible people. I believe you know very well what to choose. The first prince looked at the two confidently. Fatso said, I think your real purpose is to take Jiang Laoda under your command. The first prince was astonished. He shook his head and smiled. Brother Fatty is really smart. That's right, this prince's ultimate goal is him. But you can rest assured that even if Jiang Haotian surrenders to this prince will still regard you highly. Fatso smiled slyly, then what can you give us? Seeing that Fatty's heart was starting to waver, the crown prince's heart warmed. He smiled, other than helping you to reconcile your relationship with the Pill Emperor Hall, this highness also solemnly promises to give each of you 1,000,000 gold coins, as well as a top-tier martial art. 1,000,000? Superior martial skill? Fatso was stunned and sighed, Your Highness is really generous. The first prince smiled, this is the value you deserve. Fuck, Fat Lord can't hold it anymore. Fatso cursed and turned hostile on the spot. He shouted, I said you are fat, and you are really arrogant. 1,000,000 gold coins and a superior martial skill, are you trying to send a beggar away? The first prince's face darkened. Fatso took out the image crystal and threw it on the tea table. He said contemptuously, this is a gift from Jiang Laoda to Fat Lord. How much is it worth? The first prince's eyes widened in disbelief. Surprised by this? Fatso sneered and said to Lu Hong, let him see it again. Don't you know how to keep a low profile? Lu Hong rolled her eyes at Fatso, but she also took out the image crystal and the superior red fire-colored glass pill that she had not taken yet. Because she also couldn't stand the first prince's self-righteous and arrogant face. The first prince was completely dumbfounded. Come. How much are these worth? By the way, there are 4 perfect martial skills, also given by Jiang Laoda. Fat Lord really can't understand. You are a prince, how can you give away 1,000,000 gold coins and superior martial skills? What are you still talking about? This is the value you deserve. Fuck, Fat Lord and Lu Hong are so cheap in your eyes? Originally, Fat Lord didn't want to embarrass you, but you shamelessly came. Tell me, aren't you looking for trouble? Chapter 171. The first prince was embarrassed. He blushed and wished he could find a hole to hide in. He thought that Fatso and Lu Hong were country bumpkins who had not seen much of the world and were easy to bribe. But he never expected that. In the end, he was the one who humiliated himself. He felt like a clown, making a fool of himself in front of the two. I couldn't hold back my temper. Your Highness, I'm very sorry. How about we talk again? Actually, it's not difficult to bribe us. As long as you give us 20,000,000 gold coins each, 2 red fire glaze elixirs, and 3 perfect martial arts techniques, Lu Hong and I will serve you wholeheartedly. Fatso raised the corner of his mouth and laughed. Pretend I didn't say anything. The first prince said and walked to the door, his eyes flashing with a fierce light. Fatso laughed and said, Your Highness, walk slowly. Be careful not to slip and fall. Let's see how long you can be arrogant. The first prince grumbled, kicked the door open, and strode out. Your Highness, it's bad for your body to be angry. Why don't you stay for a cup of tea? Lu Hong leisurely walked to the door and said with a smile. Crack. The first prince almost fell down. He clenched his hands and said angrily without looking back, Tell Jiang Haotian to quickly refine the red fire glaze elixir. Lu Hong smiled and said, It may depend on his mood. Okay, I will think of a way to make him happy. Let's go. The first prince shouted coldly and went back home with Lin Hao and the others. Your Highness, take care. I won't see you off. Fatso waved his hand and said jokingly, By the way, young Master Lin, Jiang Laoda asked Fat Lord to tell you that he wants to thank you and your father for giving him 5,000,000 gold coins. Bastard. Lin Hao gritted his teeth and his eyes were burning with anger. You actually want to bribe Fat Lord? Why don't you take a look at yourself in the mirror? Looking at their backs, Fatso sneered. Lu Hong said, this kind of insufferably arrogant person is indeed disgusting. But this time, we'll have a grudge with the eldest prince. Fatso said disdainfully, what are you afraid of? As long as Jiang Laoda is here, we can rest easy. You're right. Lu Hong nodded. If one day, the martial emperor hall no longer protected them, they could just hide in the castle. Who would be able to do anything to them? Therefore, there was no need to worry at all. Qin Feiyang also heard it clearly from inside the castle, but he didn't take it to heart. The next day, Ling Yunfei arrived at the soothing lake and brought a piece of news to Qin Feiyang. Elder Wan and the palace master both left the martial imperial palace. As for where it went, no one knew. Qin Feiyang wasn't very concerned about this matter. When he told Ling Yunfei about the pill scripture, Ling Yunfei was also extremely shocked. Obviously, he didn't expect that there was such a treasure hidden at the bottom of the lake. Next, Qin Feiyang went into seclusion. The eldest prince and Lin Hao didn't take any action. But the spies of the major forces lurked around the martial imperial palace all day long like dog skin plaster. The martial imperial palace had undoubtedly become the focus of the entire Yen city. But as the source, Qin Feiyang, seemed to have disappeared from the world. Since returning to Yen city, he had never appeared in front of anyone. Whether it was the distribution of medicinal pills or others coming to him to refine medicinal pills, it was all handled by Fatso and Lu Hong. Gradually, everyone had the misconception that the three words Jiang Haotian seemed to have already become a legend. After a while, a sensational piece of news spread throughout Yen city. The royal family posted a notice. The adopted daughter of Lin family's Lin Han, Lin Yi, would officially marry the eldest prince 10 days later. It was also on this day. In the castle, Qin Feiyang's finger, which was pressed on the iron-bound book, trembled violently. Immediately after, a dazzling white light rushed out from the iron-bound book, illuminating the entire castle. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's cultivation also soared rapidly. Did it succeed? He was overjoyed. He hurriedly retracted his hand and took 2 steps back. His eyes were full of expectation. Wolf King also got up suddenly and ran to Qin Feiyang's side. He stood up like a human, and his pupils contracted tightly. The white brilliance was from the word return on the iron-bound book. The word return was condensed by true energy. But at this moment it was like a peerless divine weapon, releasing a vast divine power. Under this divine power, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King actually had the idea of kneeling down and worshipping. Deep in their hearts, a sense of insignificance arose spontaneously. After a few breaths, Qin Feiyang's cultivation stopped at the 9-star martial master. Buzz! It was also at this moment. A sudden change occurred. The white word, return, actually turned golden. This small space instantly turned into a golden sea. Before the man and wolf could react, yet another strange phenomenon occurred that left them dumbfounded. The golden word, return, actually left the iron-bound book and gradually rose into the air, emitting tens of thousands of golden rays. The man and wolf could barely open their eyes. Whoosh! The next moment, the word return turned into a stream of light and disappeared between Qin Feiyang's eyebrows. The golden light in the castle also quickly dissipated. Qin Feiyang hurriedly raised his hand and touched the space between his eyebrows. His face was full of surprise. Looking at the iron-bound book again, there was only a blank page left. Wolf King urged, Little Qin Zi, that word has entered the space between your eyebrows. It must be in your body now. Quickly look for it. All of this was too bizarre. For it was simply a fantasy story. It was very unreal. Qin Feiyang looked inside his body, but he found nothing. Suddenly, he felt that there was something strange in his palm. When he opened his hand to take a look, it immediately burst out a ray of strange light. He saw that there was a golden word, return, in the palms of both hands. Qin Feiyang said, "White-eyed wolf, let's have a try." "Okay." Wolf King roared excitedly, seeming to be even happier than Qin Feiyang. However, it stretched out its paw and gently patted Qin Feiyang's right palm. Qin Feiyang's face darkened and he said angrily, "Are you tickling me?" Wolf King smiled embarrassedly and said, "I'm just afraid that the power will rebound. Just don't use your full strength." Qin Feiyang was quite speechless. "All right then, Brother Wolf will start." Wolf King gritted its teeth and slammed its paw into Qin Feiyang's palm. Bang! At that moment, it clearly felt that the power that was blasting towards Qin Feiyang, like a torrent, was all reflected back. Immediately after, it was shaken back by that force. It really works. Wolf King was shocked. Qin Feiyang was also stunned, and then he became excited and urged, "Try again with all your strength." Wolf King said angrily, "Do you want Brother Wolf's life?" Qin Feiyang patted its head and laughed, "Be good, you won't die." All right, don't disgust Brother Wolf." Wolf King couldn't help but feel a chill, retreated a few steps, and then rushed towards Qin Feiyang with all its strength, slamming its paw into Qin Feiyang's palm. "Ayo!" Wolf King immediately screamed. Its 3-meter-long body was like a meteorite, crashing into the wall behind it. Its paw was also broken. Its skin was torn open, and blood was flowing. On the other hand, Qin Feiyang didn't move at all. "Damn, so awesome." Qin Feiyang was stunned. It was actually a 100% rebound. Sure enough, it was a taste of his own medicine. If he fought with someone and the other party didn't know in advance, he would definitely suffer a great loss. This was a trump card. After coming back to his senses, he quickly took out a top-grade healing pill and bone-replenishing pill, ran to Wolf King, and fed it to Wolf King. Wolf King was about to scold him, but suddenly his eyes turned and he laughed. "Little Qin Z, try and see if you can teach Brother Wolf the returning character formula." "Teach?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, looked down at his palm, and frowned. If he could teach it, he would definitely not be stingy. After all, Wolf King was loyal to him, and he naturally wouldn't forget it if there were benefits. But he didn't understand the returning character formula. How could he teach it? After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I'm afraid not now, but when I figure out the meaning of the returning character formula, I will tell you as soon as possible." Wolf King couldn't help but feel a trace of disappointment in his eyes. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Don't be like this. Although I can't teach you the returning character formula, I am sure that I can help you open the first level of the Gate of Potential, the ultimate realm of martial artists." "What?" Wolf King's eyes trembled, and he asked, "Are you serious? When have I ever lied to you?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and frowned, "But the premise is that you have to find the medicinal materials." Then he looked at his palm again. The 2 golden words were really dazzling. He didn't know if they could be hidden. At this point, the word "returning" suddenly disappeared. "Really?" Qin Feiyang was startled, and with a thought, the word "returning" appeared once again. Wolf King was curious, and said, "Brother Wolf, why do you feel that the returning character formula is not some kind of divine art, but more like a divine weapon?" "I have the same feeling." Qin Feiyang nodded his head, seemingly deep in thought, then laughed and said, "It doesn't matter, as long as I can use the returning character formula." After hiding the word "returning," he turned around and walked to the front of the iron book. He tried to flip to the second page, but he couldn't. "Looks like I really have to wait until I break through to the War King realm. The returning character formula is already so powerful, this second divine art is really something to look forward to." Qin Feiyang muttered, then closed the iron book, closed the iron box, and left the castle. In the living room, it was empty. Qin Feiyang shouted towards the second floor, Fatso, Lu Hong, come down for a moment. Soon. Fatso and Yi Zichen ran downstairs. Qin Feiyang asked, how are you finding the potential pill's medicinal ingredients? Ask Manager Li directly. Fatso took out the image crystal stone, and after activating it with the true qi, Manager Li's shadow quickly appeared. Manager Li said in surprise, Yo, isn't this Brother Jiang? What kind of wind is blowing today? You actually took the initiative to look for me? Senior, can we still have fun together? Qin Feiyang said helplessly. Sure, tell me, why are you looking for me? Manager Li laughed. Have you found all the medicinal ingredients? Qin Feiyang asked. This old man is worried about this. 33 medicinal ingredients, this old man has already found 30 of them. There are still 3 missing, they are the blood ginseng, snow crystal, and 9 suns flower. However, this old man has already found out about the blood ginseng. Only the snow crystal and the 9 suns flower, until now, there has been no news at all. Chapter 172. Snow crystal, 9 suns flower. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, looked at Manager Li's shadow, and asked, have you searched other places? I've already ordered the treasure pavilions in the major cities to search with all their might. If we have more time, we should be able to find the snow crystal and 9 suns flower. Brother Jiang, you're in such a hurry to get these herbs. What kind of pills are you trying to refine? Manager Li looked at him in confusion. This is a secret for now. Qin Feiyang smiled. Manager Li rolled his eyes. Acting so mysteriously. He wanted to see what this brat had up his sleeves. Qin Feiyang asked, have you asked the royal family, the Danwang Hall, the Martial Imperial Hall, and the Lin family? This old man will have to go to those forces personally. But I've been too busy recently, so I haven't been there. I'm going to visit them one by one in the next few days. But some time ago, Jia He came to the treasure pavilion. Manager Li stopped abruptly, and there was a trace of anger on his old face. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang frowned. Manager Li said, to be honest, the blood ginseng is in Jia He's hands. Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up, his eyes shining. Jia He has 3 blood ginseng, but he wants 3 supreme-grade red fire-colored glass pills before he's willing to exchange with me. Although the blood ginseng is precious, it's not worth that price. He's obviously taking advantage of the situation. Manager Li was a little indignant at the end. 3 ginseng. Qin Feiyang was refreshed. Lu Hong was puzzled. Senior, Jia He is a combat emperor, and supreme-grade red fire-colored glass pills are useless to him. What does he want to do? Manager Li said, do you remember the person called Shuiyang? The 3 nodded. How could they forget about that idiot? Steward Li said, last month, Shuiyang became his personal disciple. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, in other words, Jia He wants a top-grade crimson fire-colored glass pill in order to fulfill Shuiyang's wish? That's right. The other 2 were said to be the first prince's wedding gift. Manager Li nodded. Fatso sneered, old Jia, are you blind? Don't you know that Shuiyang is a pig? Fatso, your mouth is still so annoying. Manager Li laughed and scolded. He shook his head and said, but this is his business. It's none of our business. The most important thing now is to quickly think of a way to get the blood ginseng. Qin Feiyang returned to his seat. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, give him the medicinal pills. What? Manager Li's gaze trembled, and he said with a frown, this old man knows that you still have superior-grade crimson fire-colored glass pills, but you can't squander them like this either. Although the superior-grade crimson fire-colored glass pill is precious, I have already taken it. There's no point in keeping it. It's better to exchange it for something valuable. However, it's definitely impossible to give him 3. At most, I can give him 2. Also, you can't say that I want it. Otherwise, even if you give him 10, he may not exchange it. Qin Feiyang laughed. You don't need to remind me. This old man knows. Manager Li rolled his eyes at him and asked, Are you sure? I'm sure. Qin Feiyang nodded. All right, this old man will go and talk to him now. You can ask old man Wan and the others. Anyway, you are also in the Martial Imperial Hall. This old man won't make this trip. Manager Li said. All right. Qin Feiyang stood up and cupped his hands. I hope that senior can make a trip to the royal family and the Lin family immediately, because I really need those medicinal herbs right now. Manager Li looked at him suspiciously and said, All right, this old man will arrange it. Then the shadow disappeared. There are still 10 days before Yi's wedding day. You have to hurry up. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath and walked out of the pavilion. A moment later, he came to the entrance of the law enforcement hall and shouted, Elder Ji, Junior Jiang Haotian requests an audience. Come up yourself. Not long later, the beautiful woman's voice came from the second floor. Qin Feiyang walked up to the second floor, looked around, and saw a door that was only half closed. He walked over and saw Elder Ji sitting at the desk, writing something with his head lowered. He pushed the door open and walked in. What's the matter? Elder Ji raised his head and looked at him, then lowered his head and continued to write. Qin Feiyang stopped in front of the desk and said, Junior would like to ask, does the Martial Imperial Hall have blood ginseng, snow crystal, and 9 suns flower? Let me think. Elder Ji stopped writing, thought for a while, and said, Yes, 2 blood ginseng, 2 snow crystals. Why? What do you want? 2 snow crystals. Qin Feiyang's heart suddenly burned. He tried his best to control himself and not show it. He nodded and said, Yes, Elder Ji can name a price. Elder Ji smiled, I'm afraid that you can't afford the price I name. Qin Feiyang asked carefully, Elder, you won't ask for too much, right? I want you to join the Martial Imperial Hall, are you willing? Elder Ji said with a look of anticipation in his eyes. Qin Feiyang's heart sank. He really didn't expect Elder Ji to name such a price. However, these 3 medicinal herbs were very important to him. Elder Ji said again, If you agree, I'll give them to you for free. Now. Qin Feiyang began to regret. He should have let Steward Li do it. This way, Elder Ji couldn't find a reason to restrain him. How about this, on the day of the first prince's wedding, if Elder still invites me to join the Martial Imperial Hall, I will definitely not refuse. After thinking about it, Qin Feiyang could only think of this method. Really? Elder Ji immediately became spirited. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. 10 days later, he would announce his true identity in front of everyone in Yen City. At that time, he wasn't sure how the Martial Imperial Hall would treat him. All right, wait here. I'll go get you the blood ginseng and snow crystals right away. Elder Ji stood up and quickly walked out of the room. In her opinion, Qin Feiyang joining the Martial Imperial Hall was already a done deal. If we add the 3 blood ginseng in Jia Hei's hands, then we have 5 blood ginseng and 2 snow crystals. As long as I find 2 more 9 suns flowers, I can refine 2 potential pills. Qin Feiyang was excited just thinking about it. Suddenly, he noticed a blood-colored token on the desk. It was the blood slaughter token. Reaching out to grab it, he looked at it carefully. The beautiful woman quickly returned with 2 jade boxes in her hands. She placed them on the desk and smiled, These are what you want. I've taken a look. They are even rarer than the scarlet glass tree. I've paid such a huge price, don't go back on your words when the time comes. Do I dare? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and opened the first jade box. Rays of blood-colored light bloomed. Within the blood-colored light, there were 2 medicinal herbs lying quietly. It was half the length of a chopstick and its shape was similar to ginseng and fire ginseng. However, its entire body was blood red, as if it had just been soaked in blood, giving off a terrifying feeling. It was the blood ginseng. Qin Feiyang suppressed the excitement in his heart and opened the other jade box. A gust of cold air suddenly hit him in the face. Two extremely thin pieces of ice were placed within the jade box, and they were completely crystalline and translucent, and they emanated expanses of pure white icy mist. These were snow crystals. In fact, they were also ice cubes. But unlike ordinary ice cubes, snow crystals were born in extremely cold places and gradually condensed from cold air. The process would take at least more than 10 years. Although they were also ice, they would not melt as long as they were sealed well and were not exposed to the scorching sun. After confirming that there were no mistakes, Qin Feiyang closed the lid of the box quietly and kept it in his chinquan bag. Immediately after, he looked down at the blood-killing token in his hands and frowned. Elder Ji, it has been so long. Haven't you found out its origin? Elder Ji sighed. There are no clues at all. How can we find out? Qin Feiyang placed the blood-killing token on the table and smiled. Remember to tell me when you find out. Yes. Elder Ji nodded. I'll take my leave then. Qin Feiyang cupped his fists and turned to leave. Elder Ji's eyes flickered as he asked, the royal family is preparing to hold a competition. Are you interested in participating? Competition? Qin Feiyang raised his brows. Isn't the first prince getting married? Therefore, the king of Yen ordered to hold a competition for young people. The top 10 people will compete on the day of the first prince's wedding in front of all the big shots in Yen City. The top 3 people will receive generous rewards and can also participate in the royal banquet that night. For ordinary people, this is also a kind of glory. The registration will start tomorrow. Elder Ji smiled. Glory? Qin Feiyang sneered and turned to look at Elder Ji. He grinned and said, I want to join in the fun at the royal banquet. Will they reject me? Ah. Elder Ji was stunned and then shook his head and laughed. Indeed. With his alchemy skills, the royal family would love for him to go. In the eyes of the royal family, he might even be more important than her, the law enforcement elder. There was indeed no need for him to participate in such a boring competition. She waved her hand and said, Go back. If you want to leave the Martial Imperial Hall, report to me first. Okay. Qin Feiyang agreed readily and left the law enforcement hall quickly. He stood on a winding path with a face full of excitement. He had effortlessly obtained 4 stalks of such precious medicinal herbs. It seemed that even the heavens were helping him. Jiang Laoda. At this moment, a familiar shout rang out. Qin Feiyang looked in the direction of the voice and saw Fatso running over. He asked in confusion, What are you doing here? Fatso chuckled. Steward Li just sent me a message saying that Jia He agreed and even obtained a 9 Suns flower from old dog He. 9 Suns flower. That's great. Qin Feiyang was extremely excited. In this way, he finally gathered the herbs for the first set of potential elixir. He really did not expect that it was Elder He who helped him so much. If those 2 old dogs know that Steward Li bought the 9 Suns flower and blood ginseng for you, they will definitely be furious. Fatso laughed sinisterly. This is nothing. When they find out the power of the potential elixir, they will definitely vomit blood on the spot. Qin Feiyang sneered. Vomit blood. Fatso was shocked. He hugged Qin Feiyang's arm and begged, Boss, just tell Fat Lord what kind of magical effect the potential elixir has. If I tell you now, there won't be any surprises. Just wait. Qin Feiyang patted his shoulder and turned to walk towards the tranquil lake. Buzz. At this moment. Chapter 173. Fatso took out the image crystal, and Manager Li's shadow immediately appeared. Is there any good news? Fatso chuckled. It is indeed good news. Manager Li nodded and asked, "Where's Jiang Haotian?" "Boss, wait a moment, Manager Li is looking for you." Fatso quickly grabbed the image crystal and chased after Qin Feiyang. After catching up, Qin Feiyang looked at the shadow and smiled. "Senior, what's the matter?" Manager Li said, "Brother Jiang, just now, my subordinates came to tell this old man that they found a 9 suns flower somewhere." "Where is it?" Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. "Black Bear City." Manager Li said. "Black Bear City?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso was also a little stunned. "Are you surprised? It is said that the 9 suns flower is in the deepest part of Black Bear Mountain." Manager Li laughed. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. It was not a normal surprise, but a very unexpected one. He asked, "Senior, are you sure it's Black Bear Mountain?" "I'm sure." Manager Li nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, "Then when can the people from Black Bear City's treasure pavilion send it over?" Manager Li thought for a moment. "It is said that there is a Black Bear King in Black Bear Mountain, and it is quite strong. This old man has to send someone over, and it should take a day." Qin Feiyang nodded and cupped his hands. "Senior, please don't hurt the Black Bear King." Manager Li asked, "Why? Do you know it?" "Yes, it saved my life. Forget it, I'll go too." Qin Feiyang was a little worried. Because he understood the temper of the Black Bear Mountain. If there was a disagreement and he fought with the people of Treasure Pavilion, he would feel guilty if anything happened. Moreover, he had another very important thing to do. This matter could directly affect the situation 10 days later. "All right, be careful. This old man will go to the Lin family and the royal family to take a look." Manager Li laughed. For the sake of a ferocious beast, he had even made a personal trip. This kid was also a loyal and righteous person. What he didn't know was that the Black Bear King had saved Qin Feiyang not just once, but several times. Qin Feiyang would never forget this kindness for the rest of his life. After turning off the image crystal, Qin Feiyang returned to the law enforcement hall and explained the matter to the beautiful woman. "No way." The beautiful woman didn't even think about it before replying coldly. "Elder, this junior must make this trip." Qin Feiyang's attitude was also very firm. "Just for a ferocious beast and a medicinal herb?" The beautiful woman frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "Not entirely. There are also some personal matters. I don't know what to do with you. I'm not against it, but you'll have to wait a little longer. Elder Wan and the hall master should be back soon. When the time comes, I'll have Elder Wan accompany you." Looking at the stubborn Qin Feiyang, the beautiful woman felt helpless. Qin Feiyang said, "There's no need for that. Elder Shi can go with me. If you're still worried, we can disguise ourselves." "That's fine too. Shi Zheng is a 9-star battle king. He's enough to protect you in a place like Black Bear City. But you can't reveal your true identity. Jia He and Elder He have already lost their minds. The 2 battle kings who attacked Fatso and Lu Hong last time are the deacon elders of the Danwang Hall. If they know that you're going to Black Bear City, they'll definitely kill you." The beautiful woman warned with a serious face. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and asked in confusion, "Since we already know their identities, why don't we take them down? After all, they killed people on the street and violated Yen City's rules." The beautiful woman sneered, "If we don't catch them at the scene, who dares to go to the Danwang Hall?" In short, strength is the way of the king. It was a realistic question. But this world was always so realistic. Instead of blaming the heavens and blaming others, it was better to put in more effort and cultivate diligently. After bidding farewell to the beautiful woman, Qin Feiyang returned to the soothing lake and briefed Shi Zheng. Then, the two took the phantom elixir, changed their appearances, and left the martial imperial hall. None of the spies hiding outside the gate noticed anything. This was the magic of the phantom elixir. After leaving Yen City, Elder Shi brought Qin Feiyang and rushed to Black Bear City. Noon. The two finally entered Black Bear City. A few months passed. Black Bear City didn't change much. The Jiang family was still the dominant family. It would take a lot of effort for the other small families to rise. Treasure Pavilion. VIP Room. Qin Feiyang and Shi Zheng sat at the tea table. Beside them was a man in purple who was serving them. It was the pavilion master of Black Bear City's Treasure Pavilion. He poured tea and asked, "May I know your names? What business do you have with this pay?" Qin Feiyang said, "Nine Suns Flower." The pavilion master's eyes narrowed. Qin Feiyang smiled, "Don't be nervous. This news was told to me by Manager Li. You're from Yen City?" The pavilion master suddenly raised his head and looked at the two in surprise. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled, "Pavilion master Pei, we're in a hurry. Let's not drink tea. Just tell us the location of the Nine Suns Flower." The pavilion master looked at the two in silence with a trace of vigilance. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly, "We really don't have any bad intentions. If you don't believe me, you can ask Manager Li. Wait a moment, I'll be back soon." The pavilion master got up and walked out of the VIP room. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly at Shi Zheng. Without a doubt, he must have confirmed with Manager Li. After a while, the pavilion master strode back to the VIP room. He cupped his hands and smiled, "I've offended you earlier. Please forgive me." "It's okay." Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, "Can you tell us now?" The pavilion master said, "The Nine Suns Flower is in the canyon where the Black Bear King lives. I went there once but was chased out by it." Canyon? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He had also been to the canyon but he didn't see any Nine Suns Flower. Right. When he went there that day, it was midnight and he was still unconscious. When he left the canyon, he didn't pay much attention to it. The pavilion master smiled and said, "Steward Li has instructed me to take you there. Do you plan to go now or take a rest first?" Qin Feiyang said, "Of course now." After obtaining this Nine Suns Flower, he had gathered 2 sets of medicinal ingredients. He and Wolf King could have 1 potential pill each. Therefore, there must be no mistakes. The 3 of them got up and left the treasure pavilion. When they passed by the entrance of the pill hall, Qin Feiyang stopped. The figures of Luo Xiong, Elder Mo and Feng Qing appeared in his mind. "Let's go," Shi Zheng urged. He could guess what Qin Feiyang was thinking. However, it was obvious that they couldn't go to the pill hall now. Qin Feiyang sighed inwardly and left quickly. When he returned from the Black Bear Mountain, he would find a chance to thank Luo Xiong and Elder Mo. In less than an hour, the 3 of them arrived at the canyon. "Follow me." The pavilion master called out and entered the canyon, leading the way. Along the way, the 3 of them saw many bear paw prints. After a few hundred meters, the pavilion master stopped beside a rock and pointed upwards. He smiled and said, "It's there." Qin Feiyang raised his head to look. Sure enough, he saw a blooming flower on the cliff. It was the size of a palm and grew between the cracks of the rocks. There were a total of 9 petals. Each petal was red like fire and looked like a small sun. It was extremely dazzling. Roar! Bang bang bang! It was also at this moment. Accompanied by a deafening roar, the ground shook. In the depths of the canyon, a huge monster rushed over with a ferocious aura. If it wasn't the Black Bear King, who else could it be? Shi Zheng immediately protected Qin Feiyang behind him. The pavilion master also retreated behind Shi Zheng. However, he didn't look at the Black Bear King. Instead, he looked at Qin Feiyang's back. His eyes were filled with doubt. What was the background of this person? Not only was there a battle king following him, but even Manager Li had instructed him to take good care of this person. Roar! The Black Bear King ran over and stopped more than 10 meters away. Its huge eyes stared fixedly at the 3 of them. Qin Feiyang pushed Shijing away and walked to the front. He cupped his hands and smiled. Senior Bear King, it's been a few months. How have you been? The Black Bear King was stunned and looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I remember last time, it was you who helped me detoxify the poison. That's why I was able to escape. Is that you? The Black Bear King's doubtful voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded. The Black Bear King said, didn't you go to Yen City? Why did you suddenly appear here? Qin Feiyang pleaded, I specially rushed over from Yen City for this 9 Suns flower. Senior Bear King, please grant me my wish. The Black Bear King looked up at the 9 Suns flower and shook his head. I have a use for this 9 Suns flower. I can't give it to you. Hurry and go back. Qin Feiyang panicked and said, Senior, the Black Bear King shouted, if I tell you to leave, then leave. Cut the crap. It seemed to be even more anxious than Qin Feiyang. Something's wrong. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. An uneasy feeling surged in his heart. With his relationship with the Black Bear King, even if the Black Bear King didn't give him the 9 Suns flower, he wouldn't be in such a hurry to chase him away. Shijing asked, what did it say? As the Black Bear King was using telepathy, Shijing and the Pavilion Master did not know what it had said before. Roar. The Black Bear King seemed to have lost its patience as it roared at Qin Feiyang. Immediately, a strong wind blew here. It blew Qin Feiyang's clothes and black hair, making rustling sounds. Humph. Shijing snorted coldly, took a step forward, and his aura erupted. Elder, wait. Qin Feiyang quivered, and hurriedly grabbed onto Shijing, and said in a low voice, let me talk to it first. Shijing frowned and took a step back. Qin Feiyang looked at the Black Bear King and said in a deep voice, Senior Bear King, why is this? Did something happen? The Black Bear King said, don't ask anything, this king will not say anything, and you will never come to Black Bear Mountain again. Leave immediately, the further the better. Qin Feiyang looked at it deeply and nodded, all right, I'll go. You're leaving just like that? The Pavilion Master and Shijing were somewhat stunned. Let's go. Qin Feiyang turned around and said to the two of them, then sped towards the exit of the canyon. However, his gaze was exceptionally gloomy. The last words of the Black Bear King contained too much information. On the surface, it was chasing him away. But in reality, it was caring about him. Chapter 174. After Qin Feiyang and the other two left, the Black Bear King also returned to his lair. But he did not enter the cave. He stood outside the cave with an incomparably respectful expression. Who is it? A hoarse voice came from within the cave. The Black Bear King said respectfully, reporting to my lord, a few fierce beasts accidentally barged in. I have already chased them away. Guard outside well. Don't let any fierce beasts disturb me. Otherwise, I will send you to hell and reunite with your child. The hoarse voice said in a sinister voice, and then fell silent. Outside the cave, the Black Bear King's huge body suddenly trembled. He turned around and looked into the distance, his eyes filled with grief and anger. Outside the canyon, Qin Feiyang stood at the top of a big tree, looking into the depths of the canyon, his eyes flickering. Below, Shijing and the Pavilion Master both had suspicious looks on their faces. Bear King has saved me many times. I can't just sit back and do nothing. I must investigate this thoroughly. Gradually, Qin Feiyang's gaze became firm. He jumped down and landed in front of Shijing and the other two. He smiled and said, you two, I still have some things to take care of. You two can return to Black Bear City first. The Pavilion Master nodded. He was only here to lead the way. Since the other party already knew the location of the 9 Suns flower, there was indeed no need to continue staying. No. However. Shi Zheng shook his head without hesitation. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, Elder, I know you are concerned about me, but please believe me, I will be fine. No matter what you say, no. Shi Zheng said stubbornly. Qin Feiyang was a little helpless. Didn't this person know how to be flexible? He pulled Shi Zheng to the side and said in a low voice, Elder, you also know that I have an ancient castle to hide in. Even if I face the War Emperor, I can protect myself. Moreover, I am very familiar with the Black Bear Mountain. There definitely won't be any problems. Just wait for me in Black Bear City. I'll look for you as soon as I'm done. Please. Qin Feiyang looked at him pleadingly. What exactly do you want to do? Shi Zheng frowned. Some private matters. Qin Feiyang smiled. Shi Zheng sighed helplessly and nodded. All right, but you must be careful. If anything happens to you, Elder Ji will skin me alive. Thank you, Elder. Qin Feiyang was delighted. It really wasn't an easy task to convince this honest man. Shi Zheng rolled his eyes at him and turned to leave with the pavilion master. Actually, letting Shi Zheng leave was also for Shi Zheng's safety. He had an uneasy premonition in his heart. If he really encountered any danger, he could hide in the castle, but Shi Zheng would be in danger. Because Wolf King was in the castle, he couldn't let Shi Zheng in. Who? After letting out a long sigh, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and Wolf King appeared out of thin air. As soon as it came out, it asked, What happened to the black bear? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said in a deep voice, Let's go and take a look, but we can't go directly. Let's go to the back of the canyon first, then we can discuss. Okay. Wolf King nodded. The man and wolf ran at full speed in the forest. Along the way, they tried their best to avoid the ferocious beasts. When they encountered creatures like poisonous insects that ambushed them, they quickly got rid of them. Even so, by the time they reached the back of the canyon, their bodies were already covered in wounds. However, because they were worried about the black bear, they didn't pay much attention to their injuries. After taking the healing pill, the man and wolf looked up at the mountain in front of them. Wolf King smiled slyly. The black bear's lair is on the other side of the mountain. Why don't we dig a hole here? We might just be able to reach the black bear's treasure trove. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. This bastard, was he worried about the black bear or the black bear's treasure trove? Cough cough. The Wolf King coughed dryly and said somewhat guiltily, Brother Wolf is a loyal wolf. Don't get the wrong idea. Who are you trying to fool? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and quietly climbed to the top of the mountain. A few hundred breaths later, the man and wolf finally climbed to the top of the mountain. However, due to the lush vegetation, they were unable to see the situation below the canyon. Qin Feiyang glanced ahead, pointed to a mountain on the left, and said, Let's go there, we can see the black bear's lair. After another few hundred breaths, the man and wolf arrived at the top of the mountain. They hid in a patch of grass and looked down. At that moment, they saw the Black Bear King sitting in front of the cave entrance, looking as if he had lost his soul. Wolf King said, Something is indeed wrong. Let's go down and ask. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang pressed it down and said in a deep voice, I keep feeling uneasy. Let's take a look at the situation first. Suddenly, he noticed that on the right side of the cave entrance, there was a mound of dirt. It was a few meters tall and overgrown with weeds. That's not right. He frowned and asked, White-eyed Wolf, was there a mound of dirt there before? Wolf King looked over and shook his head. Brother Wolf is very familiar with this place. I can tell you very responsibly that there definitely wasn't one before. Looking at the weeds on it, it should have been piled up a few months ago. Strange, why would the Black Bear King build such a mound of dirt? Qin Feiyang frowned. Wolf King sniffed with his nose, his pupils suddenly constricted, and exclaimed, There's someone down there. Someone? Qin Feiyang's face changed. Could it be that Shi Zheng had returned? Wolf King said in a deep voice, "That's right, there are 3 unfamiliar smells." Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief. 3 smells, then it couldn't be Shi Zheng. He couldn't help but become vigilant as he carefully scanned the area below. But other than the Black Bear King, there was no one else. Could it be in the cave? He couldn't help but look at the entrance of the cave, but he couldn't see the situation inside. 1 man and 1 wolf lay in the grass, motionless, waiting until it was dark. When the sky turned dark, a fire appeared in the cave. But the Black Bear King was outside the cave the whole day, so it couldn't be the Black Bear King who started the fire. Sure enough, there's someone here, Qin Feiyang muttered. He looked up at the sky. The bright moon hung in the sky, and the stars twinkled. A night like this should give people a sense of tranquility. But Qin Feiyang's heart was extremely irritated at this moment. In the middle of the night. "Beast, go and find some firewood." A cold voice suddenly sounded in the cave. This voice, Qin Feiyang looked at the cave, his eyes full of surprise. "It's Lin Chen." Wolf King pondered for a moment, and suddenly a low voice resounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. "That's right. It's him." Qin Feiyang's body and mind trembled, and his eyes shone brightly. But then, his face turned pale again. If Lin Chen was here, it meant that Zuan must be here too. Everyone thought that after Zuan's whereabouts were exposed and he stole the alchemy fire from the pill hall, he would definitely leave the Black Bear City or even the county of Yan. Qin Feiyang had always thought so too. But he didn't expect that Zuan was hiding in the Black Bear Mountain. Sure enough, the most dangerous place was the safest place. If it wasn't for the 9 Suns flower, no one would know even if Zuan hid here for the rest of his life. The Black Bear King went to find a few dead wood and entered the cave. But soon, he came out again and stood guard outside. Qin Feiyang glanced at the cave, and then looked at the Black Bear King. He then brought Wolf King to the castle. Wolf King said anxiously, "Little Qin Zi, what should we do? Zuan is so powerful, how can we save the Black Bear King? And Feng Cheng is probably in the cave too." Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. The Black Bear King's body was too big to bring him to the castle. The only way was to let Zuan leave the Black Bear Mountain. But it was impossible. "Have you thought of a way? If Zuan loots the treasure trove, everything will be over." It was a slip of the tongue, don't misunderstand. Brother Wolf is really worried about the Black Bear King. In a moment of desperation, Wolf King let it slip. When he realized it, he quickly explained. But no matter how he explained, Qin Feiyang would not believe him. This white-eyed wolf was really only concerned about the treasure trove. Wolf King said, "You have to believe in Brother Wolf. Although Brother Wolf is concerned about the treasure trove, he is more concerned about the Black Bear King." "That's enough." Qin Feiyang glared at him fiercely. He pondered for a moment, and the corners of his mouth gradually pursed into a cold smile. "Today is different from the past. Now that we have the image crystal, we can catch them all in one fell swoop." As soon as he finished speaking, he took out the image crystal and quickly became excited. Soon, Fatso's shadow appeared. "Jiang Laoda, what are you doing? Have you found the 9 Suns flower?" Fatso half reclined on the chair with his legs crossed, looking leisurely. Qin Feiyang said, "Go to Elder Ji immediately and tell her that I have found Zuan's whereabouts." Fatso was so frightened that he immediately flipped over from the chair. He hurriedly got up in a hurry and shouted angrily, "What did you say? You found Zuan?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Okay, just you wait. Fat Lord will go to Elder Ji immediately." After Fatso turned off the image crystal, he hurriedly ran out of the attic. Lu Hong walked out of the room and stood on the balcony. She asked, "Fatso, what happened?" "Zuan has appeared." Fatso shouted without looking back. Lu Hong's complexion instantly turned deathly pale. She hurriedly leaped down and chased after the fatty. In the law enforcement hall, Fatso did not knock on the door and directly barged into the beautiful woman's lounge. The beautiful woman frowned and said angrily, "What are you doing?" Fatso said anxiously, "Elder, something bad has happened. Jiang Laoda has encountered Zuan." "What?" Elder Ji suddenly got up and landed in front of Fatso. She said angrily, "How is he now?" "He seems to be fine." Fatso shook his head in panic. Elder Ji said, "Quickly contact him. I want to ask him in person." "Okay." Fatso activated the image crystal. When Qin Feiyang's shadow appeared, the beautiful woman asked anxiously, "Where is Zuan? Are you okay?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "Zuan is at Black Bear Mountain. He has not found me yet." Wolf King hid in a corner to avoid being seen by the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman heaved a sigh of relief and said, "I will inform the temple master immediately. You must be careful. Do not let him find you. This time, no matter what, we must not let this old fox escape. We will contact you again when we reach Black Bear City." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Chirp. As soon as the image crystal was turned off, the loud cry of an eagle could be heard in the castle. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.